Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. It's Thursday night, and it's here. Oh,
you're getting really used to doing that intro, aren't you? You're getting super used to doing that intro.
Try it again. Hello, welcome to the Honest Wargamer. It's Thursday night. It's ladies' night, and I'm joined by two gorgeous men.
Hello,
Nick and Tom. You guys can't see me point. Nick and Tom. Hi, how you doing? Both doing?
All right.
fantastic.
Yeah,
You're fantastic, and you're all right. Tom, need to talk?
no.
No.
Do you need a hug, Tom?
I mean, in order to have good times, you have to have bad times. So I'm just like, I'm in neither good nor
Bringing
bad.
balance
so it's
to the
like,
force.
Yeah. Sort of context.
Wow. Okay. Well, yes. Thank you for joining us for this Thursday night show about 40k. Last week we didn't do a show because I had a bit of a panic attack about all the things I had to do, and Tom was super lovely and helped me organise my life. Thank you, Tom.
You've got a big notepad. It's great.
We did got several notepads.
Nice.
Several notepads because
Very
of all the
many
ongoing.
notepads.
Nick was also away on holiday. Nick, how was your holiday?
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
Good. We've got a planner.
I just saw it.
Yeah. Good.
I got very excited.
Yeah, we're going to be so serious. Yeah, but a big thank you to you, Tom, for helping me
right.
last week, and a big thank you, Nick, for you for taking the
For
week
just
off and
relaxing.
having a great time. Because you seem really relaxed. You seem so chilled.
Yeah, had a good holiday.
Okay, good. Yeah. Right, okay. So thank you to everyone on Patreon and Twitch. We've got a new Patreon member today.
Yeah, I
who
saw.
entered the big bucks category.
I was watching.
But if you haven't joined Patreon, please do. That would be awesome. Like a cup of coffee a month, and we can pay our electricity bills, which is great. And thank you to everyone who subscribes on Twitch, like Mr. Kapowski, who's done that for 8 months.
Nice one.
Every time he subscribes, he actually goes, Kapowski! Every time, which is what I would do. Would you not do that?
No.
I'd like it if all of the Kapowskis did that at the same time. As
The,
like some
the,
sort of
the
family.
Kapowski family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, or he just says, kapow! And then the rest of the family go, ski! Yeah, nice. Hello, Full Greamer, Scrivo. How's things? Perfect. Devious2K, Knock Knock Who's there, Alan Drell, Hook and Pin, Brad Glover, hi, Retisanti. That's everyone who's here currently. So if you're watching us live on Facebook or YouTube, you should join us on Twitch.
That's
is
where you can
preferable.
spam forehead.
Hey, you can spam all of the Twitch emoticons that we have, which is now 4. Remember the days of just the 1? We're at 4 now. I think you two as an avatar will be the next one. I think that would be hilarious.
Hopefully.
That's going to go badly.
The two of you, like two
Oh, that's
sides
better.
of one
Yeah, that's
coin.
okay.
Yeah, the hobby
That's pretty bad.
and the gamesmanship.
It's true. Until I win on soft scores on both accounts again.
So, have you guys done any 40k in the past week? Is my question.
I have.
The Necron and Crystal Tom. That's correct. That's their names.
It's a good rhyme.
Yeah, Necron and Crystal. Yeah, so Necron.
So I went to Sanctuary Gaming Centre for their one of their 1 day
Is this for
40k
1,000
events.
point one?
No, 1750.
I thought it was this weekend.
Standard, yeah.
Yeah, this weekend.
Yeah. So I played a couple of games there. Shout out to Andy, part of James Workshop team, who I played. I played Patrick, who we've mentioned on the show.
Did you? How did that go?
Yeah, it was a good game. There wasn't any major rules disputes.
No major ones, but there were rules disputes.
There was a few. No.
If you
big
guys don't know
ones.
what we're talking about, there has been some controversy before on the show about the said gentleman, and this isn't 100% accurate, but he once punched my mum.
I am.
Really?
So
Rumor has it. that
rumor
he
has
once
it,
assaulted
but
my
it
Like
can't be
that.
confirmed. Yeah.
I take it he didn't win the event though because he didn't go up on his Facebook page.
No, because
Who won?
he lost to me.
You kicked
So
his ass. You fucking.
yeah, well,
kicked him.
it was just some shenanigans with charging, but then not charging other squads with bloodletters, so he couldn't shoot me in my next turn.
Clever.
And then I played Ben, who's a listener, in the last round with his towel, and he kicked my ass with his towel.
Oh, nice.
What
Nice.
his surname was? No.
Stanley? Stanley?
Oh, Ben. Oh no, Ben. I know
Yeah,
Ben Stanley. He was
yeah.
playing Necrons for a while.
He was playing
So
Necrons,
here's what
yeah.
he's done. He's played Necrons for about a year, so he can like train on hard mode, and suddenly the weights are off because he's playing a good army.
Yeah.
And now he's on easy mode.
now he's on easy mode.
Yeah. That's the future.
Nice one, Ben.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's not fair though. Like Tau have to do so much stuff like roll,
Like roll
dice.
dice. Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks.
And measure 36-inch range.
When the joke tells themselves, you know it's fine. Okay, good. Have you told me you done a 40k this week?
I've been sorting out my bits box.
Oh, nice.
You see these tubs here? But
Well, no one
those
can see.
listeners can't see, but you've got these
Thank
really
God.
large
They
tubs.
can see one up here.
for about.
Yeah.
That's
but-
not quite the same size.
No.
So I've been clipping off all my sprues and all the bits in this big tub, and I'm now sorting out all of those bits.
It takes such a long time, doesn't it?
So
It's an enjoyable task, though, right?
Imagine, you know when you go into like a Staples or a one of those stores and you have like the small boxes, which are like,
I like how you're getting progressively further away from the mic.
Sorry, I'm leaning over it a little bit, which is causing me a bit of an issue with my neck.
Oh, okay.
No, it's fine.
Just lower your chair.
Can you do that?
Yeah, there's a little doodad.
Now I look like a hobbit.
No, you're fine. You both look absolutely okay. This is
Okay,
great.
that's fine. Good.
Yeah.
So I've been sorting that out. Been sorting them all into little individual boxes so I can work it all out. So I can convert 31 warbikers.
Oh, nice.
31 warbikers for our doubles list.
Yeah, doubles.
Because we're going to a doubles event frame 40k, and I am fucking radically excited.
Or is it for your ETC list, Tom?
No, well, maybe from ETC list too, but we're gonna.
We'll never talk about
Saucy.
that. He would. Oh,
There's nothing bad in the orc
Nick. Nick. So Tom is part of the. I think it's the Fijian ETC team, and he doesn't like to talk about what he's going to be taking to Fiji.
We take it very seriously.
Is the ETC currently being held? I've heard.
Rhodesia.
Get me wrong. In Rhodesia.
It's being held.
We can't say that on the internet.
Oh, shit.
No. Zimbabwe.
Okay. No, it's being held on the. You know, have you ever been to Gibraltar?
Someone wants me to.
So if you go to Gibraltar, the airport is like on top of the landing strip's kind of awkward. It's on the landing strip, so we don't have to get any hotels.
Oh wow,
All right.
that's great.
Yeah, someone's models are going to get sucked into it. So everyone takes nights.
Hey Chris, how you doing? And also hello to Pure Evil.
Oh, the most evil man anyone's ever met.
Yeah, ever. He's so evil. So you've been doing your bits box. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
it's been
good.
fine.
I've been building my 40k army.
Oh,
Tzeentch demons.
oh.
You're going Tzeentch Demons? You're going full Tzeentch Demon?
No. I'm just building Tzeentch demons.
Oh,
Okay.
And I'm pretending it's for
And then you
40k
can put some
for the
1,000 suns in
show.
there, yes.
Huh?
Then you can put 1,000 suns in there, I guess. 500 points and say it's 40k.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do. So, yeah, easy. I've got Araman.
Yep.
What else do I need?
Nothing.
No.
Magnus for banter. Just
right,
one Magnus. There you go.
Yeah, easy. Easy. He
Okay.
does stuff, right?
We can give him a beard. And that'll be cool.
What I call him Magnus the Bearded.
No, and just call him Nathan.
No.
Yeah.
All right, nice. Hey, the big goldfish. So today, so there's 40k news. There isn't much.
It's for Horus Hearsay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So today's show, in a true return to form, because we haven't done this in a while, is just pure shit posting.
Because there's nothing else to do.
I mean, there were some codexes out, and we could have done some cool rundowns, but
It's almost like a calm before the storm.
it's almost like a gathering storm.
Some sort of storm's happening
Yeah.
at some point soon,
Some
but
point
not right now.
No.
They're
So-
building up to something
That's going to
big.
happen on the ETC list. Rob.
I actually so as show producers, you two are both show producers, by the way. Congratulations! I don't know if you know that.
Can we add that
Everyone
to
in
our
that
title?
admin group is a
Show host and show producer.
100%.
Are you sure everyone in the admin group is a show producer?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you guys are executive show producers.
There you go.
Congratulations.
As long as you get a high title, I'm okay with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it's fine.
DeBolt, thank you for subscribing for 18 months in a row. He said, for fuck's sake. That's so you guys actually proposed today's show. So would one of you two like to tell me what it's about?
So we're predicting. We're like you're walking through town and then there's like a half-naked man with a really big beard on a box screaming at people about the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's us right now, but on a podcast. We're
Interesting.
predicting that 40k 8th edition is ending soon, and the 9th edition is coming out in the summer.
Yeah, are we in the sun? It's raining at the minute. Is this summertime now?
Well, almost summer.
Tom?
I don't know. We'll see, I guess. Like,
We'll see, I guess.
what else are we going to release? That's all. Like,
Well, you guys are. So, what's your evidence? Give me your evidence before we get into it. And so, as I understand it, we're going to shitpost about this for a minute, and then we're going to look back on the past 2 years of 40k.
even if we're wrong, it's
So-
the anniversary.
Yeah.
So,
It's a 2-year anniversary.
some of the evidence we can look at is, I don't know, some people might have seen it, but Chapter Master of Alrat did a YouTube video a few weeks ago where he proposed.
That's actually where I got
Where he
all of my
proposed.
information about. Yeah.
He proposed that, you know, based on some
said it. No, you said it.
No, you said it. Yeah, that's actually. I watched that YouTube video, and he said that there was going to be a new edition of 40k.
Yeah, and he quoted, I think, you.
What?
Because on
your
the show that we did moments before he released that video, we talked about your experience of working at Games Workshop, where they said they were going to have a 2-year cycle of AOS and 40k being released.
That is what I said.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
You're a prime resource.
That's where I got told.
Yeah.
I got told that at my old job,
Yeah.
which was that Games Workshop place.
Yeah. Oh, right. You used to work there?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
That's
So,
interesting. Maybe we could get some information out of this guy.
so that's some of the evidence. And also Robbie, I think it was Robin Criddis slipped up on Warhammer Live where he mentioned that's what we're doing with 40k 9th. And then, shouldn't have said that kind of.
He did do that. I had also forgotten about that piece of news. Yeah, it's so interesting. So we haven't had a codex in how long? Yunari doesn't count.
No. The last codex was Gene Stealer Cops, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was like late January.
Yeah.
So we are currently doing a rumour about a rumour that we started that we've then seen on another YouTube video.
I mean,
That's perfect.
Yes.
That is
I
perfect.
mean, we've got Renegade Knights coming, I guess.
Huh?
We've got Renegade
Oh,
Knights.
yeah.
coming,
Renegade
I guess.
Knights come in at some point.
At some point.
I think they're coming in July, aren't they?
Yeah, potentially.
Second weekend of July.
So do we think that it's not going to happen?
No, I think it's going to happen.
You think it's going to happen?
Yeah.
With what certainty? And question
95%.
95. Wow. Twitch chat, what do you think your percentage chance of it happening is? Tom?
I'm not entirely doubling down straight on this yet, so I'm going to give it a skeptical 45%. But I don't
Not
think
even
that's
half.
unlikely. I don't think it's unlikely.
You don't think it's unlikely? Okay, so you're not even going for the half. You're not even thinking 50-50. A classic catchphrase of a
it's just kind of like
show
in the
host.
middle. Yeah. We love a bit of straight in the middle, but like maybe 45 to 50%. But
Interesting. Alan Joel says 5%.
5% chance. Okay.
Wow. Full Grima says 99.9%
wow.
chance.
Even more confident than me.
Is the 9th edition coming, or
Yeah.
yeah?
DeBolt says 9th will be a round up and tidy, 100%. Sick Demo Sever says, what's the most current thing going on in 40k? The same thing as a year ago. Eldar. No, that's not true.
No.
Helldrakes.
Even then was
Custodes. ITC.
yeah.
Isn't it just
I
undercosted
saw a
Forge
thread
Lord
on
unit?
Grim Dank. I saw a thread on that Grim Dank subreddit the other day,
Mm-hmm.
where that picture from that ETC where the guy lines all his crew up against the board edge.
Yeah.
Is there, yeah. And someone in the comment section said, just for context, this was at the ETC, which was the premier event at the time, and was the most competitive way before ITC was a thing. It's like, yes, ITC events are definitely harder to win than the ETC, you absolute special.
Noggin.
Like,
Yeah. So just let you know what else Alan Joel says it's going to happen, just not this summer. Oh, maybe you know
well,
something.
I would imagine there would be a 9th edition.
Maybe
coming
it's
at some point.
something we don't know. Yeah, maybe they won't do. Maybe they'll do like a Christmas reset. It will come in time for Christmas time.
Instead of chapter approved.
Who knows? Saurus Night Records 40%. Pure Scenes. I mean, eventually 100% this summer. 30% question mark.
8%.
Alger says, and yeah, Apocalypse release is a good call. Major new 40k game system. See, I've got a bar on Saturday. Thank you for subscribing 2 months in a row. I actually have a disagreement about the major new 40k game system. Quick question to Tom and Nick. I was thinking in the next 6 months, I wanted to go to like a 1,000-point 40k tournament. Did you
Does that
know
include the doubles?
No, just no, not including a singles 1,000-point 40k event. I was just wondering, do you know where there are any?
Sanctuary did a 1,250.1 last month.
Okay,
So that's not 1,000 points.
But it's close. It's closer.
Okay, any others in the fucking
closest
whole
I have.
world?
No, that's the closest I have.
Okay. Anyone else?
Don't think so.
Anyone for any more? No.
I don't know if Blood and Glory did one.
You ready to
last
go
year,
to
but
the
I don't think so.
Apocalypse tournament?
Yeah. Wait, tournament?
What,
No.
the one that's over several weekends?
That sounds like a campaign. Mhm.
I just don't think anyone. I just personally don't think anyone gives a shit. Like the thing about like advanced game systems, like a 1,000-point weird game system or like a 10,000-point game system where they give us rules is like we don't need rules because, and this is quite important, they already can't do the other rules very well, and that's the thing they look at the most. So if I wanted to pay 10,000 points again, Nick, I'd just be like, let's just play 10,000 points. What are you doing?
I feel like there's more interest in setting up an apocalypse game than there is actually playing it though.
Oh, hold on. Datcom is going to a one-day 1,000-point event soon.
Where?
That's a great question. Alan Jones says, major on the sense of the size of the release window. It's not just a big box, but also movement trays, all the faction cards. Okay, and a load of tie-in models. So that's their new game system, potentially. Anyway, let's arrange one. I want to get into 40k, as AOS is proper boo at the moment.
Was that poll that Mikey did just all the AOS players voting for 40k and all the 40k players voting for AOS as to which one's a better
No,
game system?
I broke it.
Oh, you broke it.
I broke it.
Did you retweet it?
Yeah, no, I said fix this, and it went from. So this is there was a tweet that went up on the what's more balanced, 40k or AOS, and done by a 40k person. Mikey's from Hellstorm Games, but interestingly, he wanted to know because they want to change their entire YouTube channel into an Age of Sigmar channel. I didn't. It just blew my mind when he told me. I was like, "Wow, that's crazy." And some more shit posted, and then I saw it that 40k was winning 57% to 43%. So then I just retweeted it and changed it back.
And now it's like 48 to 52, and it's a straight Brexit.
In Age of Sigmar. Yeah, I'm the Farage of that situation.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You set yourself into a situation, and within 6 weeks, it's just horrendous.
London Wargaming Guild run a regular and very popular 1,000 and 1,500 comped events
Now,
in London.
The issue I have with that is I get like 12 notifications a day from the London Wargaming Guild, and people invite me to their events, so I never actually get.
I want to go.
It's just too much.
Let's go to the War London Gaming Guild.
You do realise how far away that is.
London, it's one train.
I'm not getting a train.
Oh my
How
god!
much is the train?
How much is the train?
And how long does it take?
In what? In Tory Britain?
Yeah.
4,000 fucking
£4,000.
ruples.
And then how?
Yeah.
And then how long does it take?
I have to go to Gringotts.
Why is it Russian?
I have to go to Gringotts. Yeah. I have to get out most of my doubloons. Oh.
Okay.
What are they? What's the currency in Harry Potter? I've ruined it.
I don't know.
But you know what I was saying.
It's not that.
Sick Demov says, "What are you guys discussing?" That's a great question.
There's nothing going on with
Right? No. Okay.
We're talking about
So-
the end of 40k as we know it.
Right. So the 40k. So according to Nick, yeah, which is according to a YouTube
What's
video.
your percentage?
It's got a YouTube video quoting
My percentage
Yeah.
for 40k changing is I don't know because it seems like that would be the case. Last time there was a book was Gene Stealer Cult, which was
February.
January, because I went to was it the first
February.
weekend of February?
Yeah.
I think it might have been
Yes.
the first weekend of February actually. Yeah, because I remember going to an event and it was like it only just dropped.
I have a list
Oh, look at you!
from the internet.
Well,
Jonathan
the
Edmonds
internet
says-
never lies.
Jonathan Atlas says, "Tom, do you not understand how close London is? Him and Nathan went for a drive there the other day on a classic John and Nathan mess around.
Right, so where did they
And he's
park?
from Sweden.
Where did they park?
They didn't. They just drove straight back. They
Right,
went, they
so
went,
there we
they went
are.
there to get diesel. That's it. Just to London to get diesel. How's Tom been with the new mic stand? Is he getting on with the new tech? Says Daisy Duke.
I hate it. It's in the way.
I'm going to change it.
Damn straight
I'll
you
get
are.
it even better. 9th will not be before the Sisters release, says Full Greamer. Not Knock Who's There. It's the end of 40k as I know it and I feel fine. Unknown Grey Knights player. Alandro revised Chaos Space Marine Codex with the last one. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't count.
That did count.
I don't count.
That counted.
They botched it as well with the flaming obliterated points cost.
They barely botched it. For them, it's almost like they didn't botch it at all.
We didn't have
Look,
to
it's
stick
been-
a paper slip in.
It's
the front
been
of a
ages
robot.
since the Space Marines had a codex, and they're always the first. So they're due a new codex.
Who?
Space Marines. And that'll go along with the new edition.
We just got that Abaddon box set thingy, majobby.
Yeah, well, that was
Slip.
just like some formations, wasn't it?
No, it had the eliminators of the suppressors with the stupid autocannons.
Well, yeah, there you go. They
Phobos
need
stuff.
they need a codex to incorporate all that stuff as well.
There you go. Like all the.
It
rules
is still a
from all the
codex, though,
books.
which is a really good point. So I think I was so certain of it, but now I'm teetering on the edge.
Well, I'm changed to 100% now.
I'm going
Just
to
'cause you
I'm going
guys are
to I'm
wavering.
going to 80%.
I'm going
'cause
to
you guys are
30%
wavering.
now because you've gone the other way.
I'm going to 80%. Yeah, 80%. Oh yeah, isn't there a new tank coming for Space Marines?
It's
Oh, there's a repulsor turret.
Yeah,
That's not a new tank.
we don't.
that is a new
Wait a
tank.
minute.
No.
We need more repulsor type vehicles.
Yeah, we need.
Oh, good.
It's a turret with more weapons on. Fuck yeah.
Yay, guns.
Right,
It's
so
not like the repulsor.
so
has
I
too many
actually
guns.
think I'm going to 80%. So with that in mind, because it's the 2-year anniversary of Warhammer 40,000 8th edition,
Yeah.
we're going to take a look back and see what happened over this time as the
Little trip
end
down
times
memory
ramps
lane.
up. Huh?
Little trip down memory
Little
lane.
trip down memory
Self-declared
lane.
end times.
Yeah, we've declared the end times.
We're coming for your kids. We're coming for your wife.
And if not, we could do a walk back afterwards if we're not okay with it.
Well, you two can do a walk back. I said 30%.
That's still a
I already
mate.
got-
That's still.
I already got wrecked for America in the last 12 months.
You still committed a bit.
Yeah.
You've
Now
got-
you're committing, so I'm just...
You've dipped your toe in the water at least on it.
Well, America's going to get bodied at the ETC this year.
It's Repulsor 2, this time they'll buy it. Is the name. Kodakami says train was very easy. Oh, it's easy to get the train, he reckons, and I agree. Not Who's there says, so on October 31st there will be a new edition or not, he reckons.
That sounds like a Brexit.
That's Halloween.
That's also Brexit Day.
Oh, stop talking about it. No more politics. Halloween edition where Primarch Conrad returns. That'd be fun.
Oh, that'd be fun. I'd like Conrad. Didn't Conrad get lopped?
I don't know.
I thought Conrad died.
Right, look, let's crack on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Let's go back 2 years in time.
let's go back 2 years in time. Doodaloo, doodaloo, doodaloo.
Storm Ravens are broken.
Well, we before we even got to that, we had the release of 8 books.
5 books.
8 books.
5 indexes.
No, 4 indexes.
Yeah.
5 indices. So 2 Xenos, Xenos 1, Xenos 2.
Oh, so 9 books got released.
Oh, right, yeah, before 12 ones as well.
4 Forge World ones. White General, thanks for subscribing. So yeah, we had 4. We had the release of 40k, which is exciting. I actually did a show every single day for Games Workshop on the release, where we saw different factions played by people from the studio.
Including a 24-hour.
Yeah, where they played, and none of them knew how to play the game. It was hilariously cool to watch. It was honestly quite fun. They were like, "What does this do?" I was like, "You're in the design studio. Please try harder."
But the people who wrote the rules didn't. Know
Yeah, one of my favourite games that they organised to play was we saw Chaos Space Marines line up against Primaris, and the Chaos Space Marines army was all berserkers on foot, no transports, and the Primaris army was a gunline army.
And the Berserkers got shot.
Unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
Yes,
Wow.
it was genuinely atrocious. But that was cool. There was some hype and excitement. They forgot to schedule in orcs. I don't know why. So we saw an orcs
have
release.
enough
one of their
Items in the
most
studio.
popular factions.
They're one of the most popular factions. And we did a 24-hour live stream, which was fun. Well, like they did a 24-hour stream. I was there. We talked about it. I was super hyped. They told me it was going to be cool. I really love Age of Sigmar. They were like, it's like Age of Sigmar, but more. And I was like, oh, fun. So that's cool. And then we just launched the game with all the indexes and everyone went mental. And that was the start. So straight off the bat with the indexes, everyone was just rifling through them. And what did you guys jump to? Also to the Twitch chat, what did you guys jump to and were like, oh, that's what I want to play?
Well, I'd heard sort of the rumours of 40k being re-released. I hadn't played 40k in many, many years before this edition. And I used to play old school Necrons with like the old metal models. So I'd been preparing for this release for a while, and I'd bought and I had a fully painted Necron army ready to go for the release. So I was only interested in Necrons at that point, and I didn't buy the codex initially.
You mean the
index?
The index.
I watched Canhammer's YouTube channel as they slowly read through the book in HD definition, and I just remembered the pages that I needed to. But then I eventually bought.
With your photographic memory?
Yeah, my photographic memory.
Nice. Tom, what did you jump to straight away?
A lot of people were jumping to things like Knights, because Knights were perceived as super busted when the books first dropped.
In the olden days?
At the start of 8th edition.
All right.
And then everyone realised Storm Ravens were super good. But I was playing Tau at the start of the edition, just because I had some cool robots I liked to play with, and I found it super boring. So
I played against that list. I can confirm it's super boring.
And 2 years later?
So, yeah, still not playing Tau.
And it's still boring.
Still boring. Then I started playing some Marines because, I mean, Marines always get used, especially with how the ally system works, right? So I took those to Nova. That was fun. Want to go back and,
Okay.
see what it's like now that I'm actually familiar with the edition.
So then what was... but with the indexes out, there were, at that point, no stratagems, don't forget.
There was two, wasn't there?
There were the three core ones from the.
generic
There were the 3 core generic stratagems from the book. The reroll, still the most used stratagem of all time. There was Inspiring Presence or like Insane Bravery or whatever it's called, and then you also
Interrupt combat.
Interrupt combat again, quite used. So
I
that was
used that one the most out of those 3. I'd say I used that one the most out of those 3.
the Bravery one.
No, the well,
Interrupt.
actually, either the Interrupt or the Bravery.
It's still very common though, right? All 3
yeah.
of those.
Yeah, and at this point there were a lot less CPs in the game.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there are.
No, there were less.
Oh, at this
there,
point, yeah.
there were less at the start.
Right, yeah, fine.
Yeah, you didn't have as many command points because there was a big bump later on in the story.
But I
as we
think
go
at
through.
this point there was loads of weird lists where, like, soup was the most prevalent at this point because
So
you could have armies with the Imperium keyword. So you could have
Yeah,
like
you
a
could.
brigade with like all these weird
So
single model
that
units.
was actually a couple of months after. So you had the Knights, then you had the Marines with the Storm Ravens, and then after that you had September/late October.
No, he's right because at the start you only had to like just have keyword Imperium.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't mean people were running it too much.
No, you're right. You know,
That's
the
the point I'm making.
The conception of soup like is in like different intended factions, but at that point people were just having factions of just anything.
What are we
keyword
talking about here? Are
Imperium.
we talking about competitive or just what people were running in the basement?
Just everywhere, like.
But everything gets run everywhere.
Agreed. Yes. Okay. I was
So
being-
I'm just confused how
it's
we're
meant to be
classifying
more
this.
fun. Like than and I think Nick was right. There was like, for instance, Tyranids. I played Tyranids a little bit, and I just had any old fucking anything with the Tyranid keyword, which was cool. But that's like a single book. And then I'm trying to think. I ran some Imperium stuff, but I suppose people had collections where they didn't have lots of different Imperial units. Right? They kind of had one army, or they had a guard army, or something else. I guess you probably.
I
right.
don't really know because I wasn't really playing like just. You only ever play in your own kind of bubble, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what everybody else was running.
Mr. Kabowski says, I think this is 8th edition release, the day the drop pods died.
The moment Gladius was no longer a thing was when drop pods died. So, yeah.
So, but there were lots of drop pods out in the world.
Most of them are terrain features now.
About that.
They are.
I've got one that I've built and painted that I used at one tournament,
Yeah.
and I've got one on sprue.
I reckon you could use drop pods to block things because they've got a big footprint.
Nowadays.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you emerge from the doors.
But at that point, they went from almost like mandatory in Space Marine armies to.
I reckon you could build a decent marine list with drop pods.
But there was something else that happened when that edition dropped was the ability to just deep strike so much more stuff.
Yeah.
You could just deep strike a ton of different things. Everyone was like, "I'm just deep striking everything. This is fun. Scouting everything. This is great fun." So that was all over the place. Rattlings were pretty powerful. I seem to remember. Oh, Arkian, thank you so much for donating 500 bits to the show.
Rattlings were decent. I played against a 60 rattling list once. That was fun. I smashed it. It's great.
But
But
still
it
fun.
was mainly like Imperial Guard with all the tanks, and then that got a soft nerf in like September, didn't it, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And then not long after, so all of this happened, and everyone was like rifling through indexes and trying to make lists. And then a competitive event happened pretty much a couple of weeks afterwards, if I'm right in thinking, here in the UK, where it was won by flocks of razor wings, like 170.
So that was Caledonian Revolution, and I thought the Razor Wings came third because that was James Ramsey.
I don't think so. I think it was the razor wings, as I understood it. But
I was at the event. I thought was it Simon or Alex that won that event?
I'm pretty certain it was the razor wings because I don't know anything else that happened at that event. If that helps you out.
Lots of people were running Razor Wings, but lots of people were also running with Storm Ravens.
Yes, so razor wings were pretty busted. Reflex Dog Training, thanks for the 100 bits. There was also loads of razor wings at some competitive events.
By Razor Wings, we mean the Razor Wing flocks, not the Razor Wings as in the planes.
Yeah, razor wing flocks. Apologise. That was interesting. And then I was still working at Games Workshop at the time, so I got to do the kind of like book release reveals, which was quite interesting. It was just like Space Marine book, and they hadn't given me much time to prep, so I was just kind of like, this is cool. And then I was reading all the stratagems, but I was reading them in isolation. So when the Space Marine book came out, it was perceived to be incredibly strong because of the stratagems, right?
Storm Raven and Gulliman. It wasn't so much stratagems.
Well, no,
Because
but like because
no
they were
one
the
had
only
to
people
be
who had stratagems at that
time.
point.
But I didn't really. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, but they had the ability to do something.
But I don't think they were strong because of it, because their stratagems weren't very useful. How many Space Marine stratagems can you name right now?
Any is the point at the time because they were the only ones who had
But
them.
they didn't have that much of an impact on the game.
I think that they did have some.
Okay, fine.
I think that they had some. Were my thoughts anyway. Like because that's how it was perceived as I understood it. But that was me being internally working there and also people's complaints externally because they were the only people that had it. So there was they had the ramped up release schedule, right? Where it was like, everyone needs a book because everyone needs a stratagem.
5 million books a month.
Yeah, as much as possible. But the other thing that, ignoring the stratagems, the other thing that you also got inside that Space Marine book was the Ultramarine chapter tactic.
Yeah, chapter tactic.
Which was pretty massive. So the ability to fall out of combat and still shoot.
And then was that the first time that -1 to hit became a thing?
Yeah, that was also army wide
Unless you were a
-1
flyer.
to hit,
Yeah.
which was -2 to hit
flyers.
inside that army.
No, because it only worked on things like dreadnoughts.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it
You're right.
doesn't work on
So yeah, so they got but that also meant that you could take Gulliman, which you're right, Tom. At this point, you then ended up with the Gulliman car park, right? Because
You end up with Gulliman and the Ravens.
Razorback spam.
yeah, and the
I didn't see
Razorbacks.
many Razorbacks. but
Razorbacks
maybe-
won that
maybe
event.
someone was using which event?
Started off initially going.
The first heat,
Oh, that was Lawrence. Yeah.
but it still won a heat.
It went, oh.
And Gulliman ended up just having a car park of dudes, and if you charge them, they could just fall back and see reroll to hit, reroll to wound. So the Ultramarine stratagem was actually pretty. The Ultramarine chapter tactic was again.
I'd say it's mainly Gulliman, which is
Yeah,
really
that's my
strong.
point.
Because I think, you don't really see many Ultramarine lists without Gulliman. Utilising that tactic's like devastating potential. Yeah.
So that happened,
That did
and then
happen.
Gulliman was the bad guy for a while, right?
Seemed to be, yeah. Particularly
If you
with
don't agree, then
Storm-
say
No,
what
it's fine.
actually did happen.
I know, I was trying to. What I was saying was that the reason that the Marines were winning wasn't because of the stratagems, and it wasn't because of the the car park, and it wasn't because of the Ultramarine trap tactics. It was because you had access to cheap wound shots with reliable hitting and wounding potential. It had nothing to do with the stratagems.
All right, great. Okay, cool. So then, when did stratagems become? What else happened at that time? Like, if I'm not relating the story well, then tell me what I am.
The first list that really used stratagems to dominate the kind of circuit was Death Guard. And that was the example of a Poxwalker list that was using things like Cloud of Flies to block off the Poxwalkers and then just run to your face and then force you to kill units and add more to the board and just give you insane board control. That was when stratagems really started to have a massive effect on the meta.
Well, then explain that to people.
I know, it's fine.
Like we're relating a tale. Like explain that.
Spinning it on. But before we got there, we had the Grey Knights Codex that came out.
That-
That made a
that's
big
not
splash,
relevant.
didn't it? That made a big splash.
It did. It
was
did.
like-
People were very excited about the Grey Knights.
That was like a tiny little pebble falling off a
But Chaos
skyscraper.
Space Marine came out not long after that, right? Or no, it was Chaos Space Marine
So
before
Grey
that.
Knights came out.
Then Chaos Space Marine and Death Guard.
They've not got Chaos Space
Oh,
Marine.
they forgot to put Chaos Space Marine on there. Chaos Space Marine was after Marines, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Because that
they're
happened.
usually the first two.
When did it say that came out? Oh, okay. Oh no, it was Grey Knights first because I went to. I definitely went to Element Games. I had an event on. I think it was Element Games Grand Slam to buy the Chaos Space Marine Codex. And the Grand Slam was after that. I thought, but I wasn't certain. I bought it because I thought I had Mortarian and I was wrong, but never mind. So yeah, that did nothing. And then you had Admech, which also did very little, right?
Well, so Death Guard came out before that.
Death Guard and Admech apparently came out same weekend.
Same month.
Okay.
Yeah. My list only has months, doesn't have the day. So
Right.
the order might be slightly messed up. But they came about at the same time. I'm pretty sure Chaos Space Marines was around then, and that was the first time that there was like a double shooting stratagem. Because for me, because I had my Necrons for a little bit, and I wanted to buy a Marine army. So the Chaos Space, I waited
no,
till the
you're
Chaos
right.
Space Marine was out.
Sorry.
Because I wanted to, this was the time I just became obsessed with plasma guns. And I thought, I schemed a few lists with the Space Marine book and I wasn't like super impressed. And then I waited for the Chaos one because they seem to have more options to have plasma in the list. And then I built the army around the double shoot and the +1 to wound stratagem. I think those two stratagems were pretty massive. But loads of people at that time went on the big cultist blob.
Yeah, so
Rampage.
I
didn't
was
they?
wrong on when it dropped because it must have dropped in August at some point, the Chaos Space Marine book.
Yeah.
Because I remember Badramovich using the double shoot stratagem on me with cultists, with Marcus Lanesh. It's called
Yeah, I
Endless
think
Cacophony,
they
right?
were. Yeah,
Yeah.
They would have after.
But then you also had Tide of Traitors, which was
You
also a
did,
huge
yeah.
part of it.
Yeah.
And then competitively for a while, that was like just a dark time. You also had the other thing to point out is when you did have the Death Guard release, you also had Mortarian. rocking around with all of his stuff. But then he was always buddied up with his best friend, Magnus.
And Super Chicken.
And yes, you also had on release, you had Super Chicken, which is also something we went past. So there was a bunch of like very powerful, ridiculous, and Malefic Lords.
Oh yeah, those
Malefic
things.
Lords.
We forgot about Malefic Lords.
You had Malefic Lords, Super
And
Chicken,
Smite.
Magnus Mortarion, and like 10 Malefic Lords. It's great.
and Smite Spam.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant.
So yeah, you had a bunch of like out of the gate really busted stuff.
Giant Chaos Spawn.
Giant Chaos Spawn. I would say that Super Chicken was probably one of the like closest to terrifying things that was out there.
Yeah, it was.
And then when that eventually got a points update into the ground,
When you know something's getting an 800 points increase, it's probably busted.
yeah, that went from 800 points.
700 to
So, and
1500,
if you guys aren't aware what Super Chicken is, that it would be the Exalted Great Demon of Zinch.
Atos Sarau Karez.
There you go. That's his actual name. It's a named character as well.
Yeah, it's a named Lord of Change in the Index Chaos Forge book.
So then we ended up going from like with the Death Guard book, you had Mortarion and then you had Magnus, and that's when as a show we kind of like had that conversation where we were like, if you don't have an invulnerable save and you're a multi-wound model, you're basically next to worthless, because at that point everyone had to spec to kill one or both of those two dudes in the first turn, right? That's how I saw it.
Even then, you might not even kill one. Because Atos Rakarez had 27 wounds, toughness 8 with a 3+ invulnerable save.
Yeah, he was very, very tough.
And Magnus is similar, right? Because he could get a 3-up invulnerable
Although
save.
there was an interesting point, but he has to cast a power first, so if you get him first turn, you're not getting it. There was a point where Atos Rakarez has a rule whereby if there's another Lord of Change nearby, he has to shoot it on a 4+ rather than shooting enemy units. And people were arguing that he is the closest Lord of Change. So therefore he just keeps shooting himself in the face on a 4+ every turn.
I like that. That's good. So yeah, the Malefic Lords were too cheap. So straight out the game was pretty like bent. They were just some really broke units. But then as we started to get the book releases, they cleared up some of those broke units, and then they just managed to release a ton more. While at the same time releasing some. Let's kind of give the books a rating out of 10, like during the time. I'm trying to like picture how I felt at the time. So the Space Marine book,
As in when on release.
just
On
as a
release.
book, like how did you feel about it then? How, like, you know, what was your thoughts? Same to the Twitch chat, obviously.
I didn't really think about that book too much because the edition was still pretty new. So yeah, you were. Worried
I thought
about more things.
you quite enjoyed.
It was fine. It's just
you quite enjoyed the oh god, not Inceptors. The guys with all the
the
hells.
aggressors.
The aggressors.
Yeah, they were fine, but it was just. Yeah.
But you were a little bit pumped about
I
them
still
for a
enjoy
while.
playing aggressors.
Yeah.
I still enjoy them because they're fun. But
So what are you gonna
I
give that
the Marine
book?
book a 6.
A
I think the
6?
codices this edition have actually been really, really good. It's just a pity about the core rules.
Nick,
I'd go for a 7 for them when the Marine book came out.
a 7.
Yes.
All right, nice. And then Death Guard was its mirror. I'm pretty certain they came out like next to each other. That's the order. No, or Chaos Space Marines. I think it's Death Guard because that was what was inside the box.
I think Chaos Space Marines were next after those.
Yeah.
And that's when I got really excited. I still do love the Chaos Space Marine book. It's had a revision now.
So what do you think of it?
I absolutely love it as a book.
So
I
give
think
it a
it's
number.
great. 9.
Nice, Tom.
I thought it was a 4. It
Oh.
just didn't capture me.
I didn't capture him
The 6th
emotionally.
edition one did. The 6th edition one did. That one didn't.
Why didn't it capture you? What's wrong with
I
it?
don't know. I just didn't. I can't explain how I felt about it. It's just
You can have like 5-man squads with all plasma.
great.
Source Knight reckons the Marines are a solid 7. He liked it. I didn't like the Marine book because there was just so many data sheets. I was like, I'm
Good
bored.
value, mate.
I was like, I was just bored. I was like, oh, they're all the same as well. Like, whatever.
This one could get a big gun. This one.
And that's the problem with that with this edition release. Now, having looked back on it, you're right. So much stuff is not worthless. That's not the right way to describe it, but it's just so meh. When you've got so many things like whirlwinds,
I
like,
think
who cares?
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily applies to the tanks, but I think Marines at this point in time where we are, we're in an interesting position because obviously Games Workshop have released their new true scale Primaris and Marines, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, they're gonna invalidate my entire collection," and I think eventually they will, but they didn't want to do it straight away, so they're kind of doing this phased transition between Primaris and old school Marines, where they're slowly introducing new units. There's clearly a style they're going for, where like Intercessors are your tactical Marines, Hellblasters are like your special weapon dudes.
Your Stone Guard.
And then Reavers are like scout type dudes. And now there's new sort of scout snipers.
The
And
next stop is to let them get in drop pods. Primaris drop
hopefully.
pods with a thick, beefy base.
Yeah, there'll be a new
Thick
Primaris
booty.
drop pod probably. So yeah, like loads of marine units that all are specialised, and eventually they'll just replace all the old marine units.
Yeah.
Which I think is cool. I can't wait to see like proper Primaris Devastators.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I really, really like the new aesthetics generally. I think the models are great. I can probably leave the Redemptor and the Repulsor at home forever on a shelf.
don't
I
like
would leave it at
Repulsor.
home. I don't ever even have one to leave anywhere. But I like the marine element because I'm a big Heresy fan, and they definitely have taken that kind of like marine, Heresy organization aesthetic and applied it. So yeah, big fan of that. And that's why I got bored of the actual Space Marine Codex, because I was like, oh great, another vehicle with a kind of
Oh,
like
with
Greek
different kind
name.
of land speed.
Yeah, a different type of like kind of elite infantry squad. That's like great. But yeah, Colonel Cabbage is right. It's not really the book's fault. It's Games Workshop and their Space Marine loving that's the kind of giant issue there, realistically. A Marines book was just a way for me to bring multiple Contemptors, says Pure Evil. And then Miss Spice says, love the Primaris model, though. So he's a big fan of that. And then the Death Guard book. I love the 9. Poxwalker models, great. All the other models, great. Loved it. 9.
Yeah, that's the models.
No, and the book, 9. I liked the Poxwalker spam. Thought it was hilarious. Loved it. You made a poo grenade rundown. Loved it. Like, I loved it.
I forgot about the grenade rundown.
Loved it. It was great.
Probably give about a 6-2.
Mortarian, badass. Loved it.
Yeah, I give it a 6. What made me not like it so much is that the models were mainly static pose.
Death Guard ones.
Yeah. Like
Oh, I
you
feel
buy
they're
a
quite
box of models
dynamic.
and you can build. No, I mean like you buy a box of models and you can build these models and that's it.
Okay.
Just because of how the kits are made and designed, like you're pretty pigeonholed into what models you can build.
Yeah.
Was my impression. I've not built the kit myself. I don't know. It could be
What the-
Poxwalkers are
better.
definitely monopose.
the marine. Yeah, the Poxwalkers.
No, the
definitely are,
Marine,
but
the Marines, if you got them in the Star Box, yeah. But if
Yeah.
you got the multi-part kit, yeah, they've got some cool weapons, man. You just don't see them, right? I would argue that they've been too expensive for a long time, and they still are. Like, they're quite resilient.
Plague
but,
Marines.
yeah.
It depends how you're using them. If you're using them as a poo bomb, it's kind of funny, and they're kind of.
But yeah, you don't tend to see a bunch of them with a bunch of different weapon options
No.
generally. And
But
there's
if you
some
do-
pretty cool looking ones.
But if you decrease the points for them so they can be viable as kind of like a troops option, then you're making them kind of busted as a poo bomb option, right?
Yeah.
So you'd have to rework it in another way.
Yeah, but that's going to be true. I think that's going to be
But
true.
who doesn't want
unfortunately.
poo bombs everywhere?
Yeah, who doesn't want
That's
that?
that's
If you
an
guys-
edition of 40k I want to play.
Agreed.
I mean,
if you
we
guys want
already
to go
have
back
that
and
if you
listen
go
to
to certain
Tom's,
events.
if you guys want to go back and listen to Tom's rundown of, that would be using a lot of light grenades.
The Puicide Squad.
The Puicide Squad. That would be funny. Pure Evil says the amount I converted the Easy Build Death Guard disgusting way too much. There's loads of cool stuff in there, I think. So yeah, I got 9 for me for Death Guard, and then you guys.
I'm going to go for a 6 for Death Guard of how excited I was.
Okay, and then Tom.
Death Guard 6.
Okay, cool. And then after that, Grey Knights.
The Grey Knights came out.
Yeah, the Grey Knights.
They were a bit. My friend Paul jumped on the Grey Knights. He was dead excited. He bought like. a
My
little
friend
army.
Jonathan Etland jumped on the Grey Knights.
Yeah,
Yeah, he loved it.
but Paul was sorely disappointed once he'd played with them for a little.
So was Jonathan.
Because it was like, oh, I've paid 150 points for this super elite Grey Knight unit that like does really cool fighting with its force blades, and it's got like loads of stormbolters, and they're a psyker, and then they're just like, well, it's just 5 Marines with a 3-up save, 1 wound, and then like someone smites D3 wounds off them with their 30-point Malefic Lord, and you're like, oh.
I remember those early days. I've got the Solar Auxilia Stormlord, like the super heavy tank.
Or you just one shot it with a fucking staff.
You can stab. You can one shot it with basically anything. It was 800 or so points, and it was basically just 30 wounds with its dick in the wind, just like please murder me.
I ran into 2 at the ETC, so it can't be that bad. I ran into 2 of those things. At
The
ETC.
Forge World ones.
Oh, not Forge World one. Sorry, I thought you meant the big super heavies.
No.
The guard. No.
The Forge World variant.
Like Bane Hammer and things like that.
Yeah, they were like a couple of 100 points cheaper.
Oh, that's okay then.
Yeah, well, not really, but Nick. So did your friend get quite disgruntled quite quickly? Did people realise Grey Knights were rubbish on release, or?
I don't think they released on release, but after they played with them for a little bit, I think they did. Yeah.
I think because of the stuff that came out of the gate that was a bit busted. For instance, Tide of Traitors.
Yeah.
A bunch of
Gulliman on his original points cast.
Gulliman with the
things.
car park, then Malefic Lords and Fire Raptors. Dear God, Fire Raptors.
Oh, that was after chapter approved though.
No, it was before as well.
We were all right before, but they got a points decrease in chapter.
That was no, because they were low, then they got one up, and then they came down again.
When would
Well,
have gone the one up?
Okay, well then
I
either
just
way.
remember because it was when the Storm Ravens got put a points cost. So people
Oh
took
yeah,
Fire
no, the
Raptors
Storm
instead.
Ravens. That's what I'm thinking
oh,
of.
there you go, yeah.
Storm Ravens
Yeah.
were mental, weren't they?
Yeah,
Mental.
specifically with Gulliman because it gave you reliable strike fate shooting.
No, it's just so much shooting. Craziness. So yeah, but all that was happening. So when these books were coming out, we were like, yes, it's okay.
Yeah,
Like, because we don't really.
everything is fine.
Yeah. And then what happened after? Alandril says, yeah, people pretty much knew they sucked at the drop. And then Reflex Dog Training. Also, anyone who's not watched it, very quickly, I'm sure everyone who listens to 40k or cares about 40k has. But if you go and watch the Astartes video on
that was so
YouTube,
cool.
that was cool,
Even
right?
the dude I just play League with just said, "Hey, have you seen this?" I'm like, he doesn't even have any connection to 40k.
Yeah, I liked it.
I want that to be the last one was the best with the Psychers. That fight was fucking sick.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the most recent one. Yeah, yeah, that one's brilliant. They should just do more of that.
They should just do
More of that.
series, film.
Hire that man.
Hire him.
Yeah.
Yeah, done. But moving on. What was the next codex?
So the next ones we haven't talked about yet that came out recently afterwards were the Astra Militarum.
Oh, and here we go. The
when
company commander.
Cadia's fallen. Oh, and then this was where
People stopped taking
the
the gun lines as much because they did something to them, didn't they? Can't remember what it was. But they did something to the
No, this wasn't
gun
yet.
line.
This wasn't yet.
Okay.
So
How
this.
did they change the gun line to make it unpopular then? I'm trying to remember what they did so I can work out when they did it.
So first off, Astra Militarum came out, and everyone was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." and then everyone was like, "Oh, I kind of need some CP for my."
I'll have
I
Chaos
think we're talking about
Aquila.
different things again. Because I was talking about Astra Militarum did really well at Nova, and then it was just everyone was just taking it for a while, and then the book dropped afterwards.
The book drop before.
No, because Nova was in September.
Oh yeah, no,
That
you're
was
right.
fair.
No, you're right. They didn't do anything with that. They just So you're right. There was lots at Nova. There was lots of rattlings, and there was lots of the mortars and the other stuff.
Wyverns and things like that. Yeah.
Wyverns, and it didn't overly change when the Astra Militarum book came out, because you also then people were running triple super heavies because you were doing the 5+ Overwatches. That was a thing. And then you were also taking the Loyal 32. This was their first instance, their outing, because you were generating 5-ups and then you were regaining 5-ups and you were just having a great time.
Yeah. Is this the first time CP farming was a thing?
That was the CP farm book.
God, I hated that day.
Although Gulliman already had it, don't forget. That Ultramarines already had access to it.
It wasn't for both your strategy and your opponents.
Yeah.
It was just
No.
for yours.
No. So that was the start of the CP farming. So, but for a while, I don't think necessarily people were necessarily adding it on because, also the Mechanica. No, was that before the Mechanica book?
We talked about the Mechanicus.
Oh, but we didn't give a rating.
No, we didn't.
2.
3.
Yeah, and I'm a Mechanicum player, so excited. Also, can't wait for my Forge World Mechanica book.
Yay.
2 years later.
Transports.
Still waiting.
Transports.
Still waiting. Oh, they're releasing Transport. It looks awful. So this is when the start of the CP farming happened,
Yeah.
right? And was a
What
thing.
dark day.
Was a dark day.
And also they made some changes to Lehman Rust, didn't they? So if you move under half, you get to shoot
Well,
twice.
what
Oh,
they did,
that
and
was
what they
always-
did, Tom, the difference between Nova and release of the book is they changed Company Commander's ability to make an entire unit immune to leadership checks.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that was the change up that happened.
Didn't we also change the commissars as well?
Yes, but effectively the difference between Nova and the release of the book or post-book was that because previously you had conscript blobs that were basically indestructible.
That was it, yeah.
And then after that, that was no longer a thing. And then we're into the CP farm game, which was great fun. Yeah.
CP farming game.
The CP farming game. I remember the start of that. I was there in the beginning.
That's surprisingly good, actually.
What?
You could narrate, like, Game of Thrones books or something.
The bloody beginning of it was. I loved it.
I told you, sir.
I told you. I
Me
said.
and my dad used to farm CP, send him off to those rich lords.
And it was around this point we started doing this war gamer.
Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah.
Stick it back to the.
So we've been here rowing about 40k for 2 years now. Congratulations, gentlemen. Has it been 2 years?
Almost.
No, wait, no,
Sorry,
it hasn't
no,
been
year
2
and a half.
years.
Since the release
Year and a
of the
half.
book, yeah.
Oh, can't wait for us to have rowed for 2 years. That'd be really cool. So then, what was the next? Oh, so
Is that
what
what
do
we're
you?
going to do on the 2-year anniversary? Just have an argument
Just
about
big
stuff?
old row.
Big old argument.
What do you guys give the rating for this?
The Astra Militarum book.
Yeah.
I give it a good one, but they also, for some reason, had to clarify to the guard players that moving 0 inches is less than half. So we're going to give them a 7.
Bless them.
I'm going to give this one a 1 because it introduces CP farming, which I hate. So I'm giving it a low rating.
I'm giving this a 10 because having announced that we would need less books for 40k, it would be more streamlined, and also they would do away with Death Stars and 2-up invulnerable saves. I very much enjoyed when they gave me my 2-up invulnerable save Bullgrins,
All right.
which was...
Here's the thing,
Nice.
but without the Death Stars, you end up with lists that just are designed to blow people off the table because they can.
So we're not having that conversation.
Okay.
This is just...
Save that for the 2-year anniversary.
Yeah, what happened?
You missed
What they said was that they were not going to do a thing, and what they did was did a thing.
They did the thing.
That they said they specifically weren't doing. That was what they did.
I question the how wise it is to not do that thing.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. That's absolutely okay. But that's they definitely said that they were doing away with 2-up invulnerable saves,
Yes, they did.
and then they gave us one, which was sweet.
They gave us a few, didn't they? Because we had Grey Knights can still do it.
Oh, yeah?
Lord of Changes could do it temporarily, right?
You know, talking to the mic. So.
Oh, sorry,
so.
I thought I was close enough. I'm just trying to tuck myself back under again.
But then shortly after the Astra Militarum came everybody's favourite book, the Craftworlds.
9.
I give this a 1 out of 10.
I'm going to give it... Can I go to the minus?
No,
numbers?
that's why I gave it a 1. I'd give
Alright.
it a 0.
I'll give it the tiniest amount over 0.
No, you have to give it a 1.
No.
That's the bottom.
No, I refuse. 0.000001 is what I'm going to give it.
Yes. What's really fun is it's still probably in the top 4 books all this time later.
Even though it's had a bit of a kick in.
Well, as much of a kick in as it could have had.
Definitely the top 5, probably the top 4.
Yeah. So there we go. Like and just.
And why was it so good when it came out? Because
I was playing it.
They had it because Tom was playing it, but they were the first because obviously Ravengard had a -1 chapter tactic, but Eldar got a -1 tactic, but it was everything. So even their wave serpents, even their planes that already had a -1, and then they also had a stratagem to get over -1.
It was a marked improvement over the Space Marine one, where like you said, it only affected dreadnoughts, bikers, and marines. So you ended up with and Mr. Kapowski saying in the chat that Craftworlds got shat on by the podcast circuit when it first came out.
Really?
Which podcast?
Well, I imagine ours.
I don't think we would have shot them because we started. Okay, so we started after. What ended up happening was they dropped the Craftworlds book, and then a couple of weeks later in November, they released an FAQ, which basically nerfed Yunari to a degree. So it's you can only do each action once, and each unit.
That wasn't the only thing that happened in that FAQ though. They also
But it was the most major thing.
Yeah, well, they nerfed they didn't nerf some stuff, but like Gulliman got a little bit more expensive. Like some things went up and down, and I think the Forge World stuff is when it then took the kick in.
Yeah.
At that point, so Forge World models went up like by 200%.
So those came in chapter approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What the Forge World models go up and down?
These yes.
Oh, that wasn't part of that FAQ.
That wasn't part of that FAQ.
Right. Okay.
No.
But it was around the same time frame. So I don't think any books. It was Craftworld, and then chapter approved, and that FAQ all kind of happened around.
So Craftworld's October, FAQ November, and then chapter approved December, and then you got the notification of the big FAQ drops
Yeah,
because they fed back their feedback because it was like 2 days before I made GT.
So why did we not like the Craftworld book? And why did we like the Craftworld book, Tom?
Because I played Craftworlds and it was broken again.
It was broken. Nick, you got any follow-ups to add to that?
Well, I think. Was anyone playing anything other than spamming Reapers really at that time? When
I think
I was
so-
playing War Spiders for banter.
War Spiders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
alright.
Just for fun.
I remember
Still
playing.
did quite
I remember
well.
playing against it with my AdMech. Not long after the book came out, it's my good friend Rob Crouchley, and it was just woeful. Like the power difference between our two armies was just like magnificent. Like it was stunning to behold. And at that point, obviously, this was pre chapter approved as well of 2 years later where you had them, because at that point when the codexes was coming out, they were generally lowering the points cost of units versus the index.
Yes.
The books were generally making stuff cheaper, but that had only really started to happen as of Craftworld as of the Astra Militarum, whereas the Mechanicum one was that everything was still very expensive. Like a transonic arquebus was 50
Which means
points.
they're still stuck in power levels.
Yeah, and I think they're now like 10 or something, whatever they are. So they were just, but like its worst units are things. Alendril says it's a great book except for the parts that are utterly broken. Like its worst units are things most other books wish they could have. My initial response was pretty down on it. He was like, but then Wave Serpents.
Wave Serpents.
I remember playing a game in like February time with I was using Astra Militarum, and then I was trying desperately to compare my my transport Chimera, thank you so much, to a wave serpent, and I was just like how? Like, and I think my Chimera at that point was more expensive, and it was
Wave Serpent's about 120 points at the point.
Yeah, what the Wave Serpents came out at like 120 or something.
Something like that. Then you have the upgrades because people were taking things like Spirit Stones and Vectored Engines.
And they were like so cheap.
They were like 10 points each.
Yeah. So can I just make this is an opinion, so you guys are more than willing to push back. I'm more than willing for you to push back on it. It's at that point that I was like, okay, they fucked the game, like, and I mean this in that still now to this day, like we just said, it's in the top 4 books. Like, and it's had 2 chapter approves, several FAQs, a ton of stuff. I was like, this thing is broke beyond all fuckery. And it was ludicrous. It played its own game. That's how it felt.
Genuine question here. So that book in its peak, which was like November 2018, was around the 60% win rate mark, similar to Thousand Suns and Things. Is it worse than Flesh Eater Courts are in AOS?
That's not the comparison.
Well, my point I'm trying to make is that if the fun of a game is sucked out by one book just being dominant and you feel like there's nothing you can do against it, surely that same argument applies to other games.
It absolutely does. Only in my experience, having played playing both systems, if we give it a comparison, there are more answers to the AOS issue than there is to the 40k issue.
Okay, that's not clear to me because I don't play both games. I just see the win rate of 60%, and if there are more answers to Flesh Eater's Courts, I would specifically expect that to be lower.
I would actually say that the lower win rate for Craftworld Eldar, if we're talking about it in a pure like gaming perspective, would be because of its involvement inside of ITC. In the ITC doesn't, as we said, and don't forget we're also at this stage. You lose games currently under Games Workshop rules and ITC rules. At that point, you lose the entire game if you're tabled.
No, not in Games Workshop rules.
And at that point,
yes. Yeah.
At that point, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They even specifically added a caveat that if you only have flyers left, you're tabled as well. They even added that caveat right before
Later
Nova.
on,
They added some beta rules right before Nova.
Yeah. Yeah, but they did the flyer update, didn't they?
They did.
Because it was a response because flyers were just wiping everything out.
That was just the what was it, boots on the ground rule, and a couple of other meaningless pieces of crap. But
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but no, but those are important. So, however, I would say that ITC actually stymied not their win rate to a degree because effectively what you weren't doing is like it was more about points on the board, right? ITC at that point.
But it doesn't matter if you have points on the board if you just get nailed and everything's dead.
Yeah, which was my experience of Craftworld. But there were several events where Craftworld didn't win. To put it in fair context, but it definitely felt like. But also as an AdMech player, as I'd been, it just seemed, AdMech was. Well, I mean, if we put AdMech at -1 and then Craftworld at +1, there was like a 2-point difference in my books. I was like, oh.
So this entire section was kind of weird in that it wasn't actually very well long lived because you ended up hitting things like the Poxwalker list, which wasn't necessarily easy for Eldar, but you also ended up hitting things like Flying Hive Tyrants as early as January. Potentially November, depending upon where in the country you are, if you were in the UK. So, I mean, it only started popping its head up in like March in the USA. But
is that because USA are?
They were behind.
How many light years did you say they're behind?
They were behind about 6 light years.
6
at that time.
Okay.
They were. They genuinely were, and I'll still defend that. Because it took them how long to adopt Flying Hive Tyrants? Far too long.
Oh yeah. So hold on. So anyway, we're here. So Craftworld comes out.
Catch up.
Craftworld comes out, and it was very, very strong. It had lots of tricks. And what was nice is it had a very survivable book, so you could nerf a single thing. Unlike Gulliman, right?
It was deep.
So yeah. So they ended up, I think, putting the points up on Razorbacks, which ended up causing the Gulliman to be like just. And he got a little bit more expensive. You couldn't get quite as much. Well, you still saw people run similar sorts of lists.
Yeah, because you had to build around Gulliman if you wanted a competitive Space Marine list, and you still do to a degree.
Okay.
Unless you're playing Death Watch.
Yeah, there's some stuff out there. But you know, Nick has got his Salamander list. I've seen some other lists as well. But
Venerable Dreadnoughts, that's where it's at.
exactly. So then we saw, but the issue was clearly is that gun lines were far too strong. Yeah, so we had to nerf them. So we got into the FAQ.
Well, we got there's the Tyranids book.
Oh, so sorry.
Tyranids was really
Tyranids
important, and Dark Angels was really important as well.
Was Tyranids before the FAQ?
So Tyranids was after Craftworlds, but before Chapter Approved.
No, was it? Oh, it was, yeah.
According to my data
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
that I
Yes.
got from the internet,
All right, thank you. This will do then.
November,
Yeah.
Tyranids came out, 2017.
Yeah. Flying Hive Tyrants, dude.
Loads of Flying Hive Tyrants.
Yeah.
And they dumpstered Eldar, because Eldar can't kill that many.
Yeah, that was a thing.
They had quite a few deep striking tricks that I remember at the time. Because I remember Ace came on and he did a bit of a show with you, I think, on Tyranids. He was talking about how he liked to play with like Trigons pop up and they can bring a unit with them. And there was like a Tyranid, I can't remember what they're called, like host that could charge on 3d6 or something like that.
Kraken,
So he was
isn't it?
playing.
Kraken?
I can't remember, maybe. But he was talking about playing a list around that, which sounded quite interesting, but didn't really catch on, it seems. So
Well,
No,
because we haven't got to I'm trying to get to the FAQ bit because I don't think that happened during because we had our very first ever beta rule.
That was in March. So we're
Oh
currently
no,
in
hold on,
November.
because they stopped deep striking at that point. Before they got to March, where deep striking couldn't happen, there was two versions of no deep striking. There was no deep striking if you were the first person in the first turn, and then there was the FAQ where there was just no deep striking in the first turn. There were two versions, and this is when we got the introduction of no deep striking, and because we also got the introduction of the rule of three, which the rule of three happened after
that was also
Adepticon.
March.
Yeah, but there was a pre-nerfing to deep striking before the big FAQ.
I don't remember this.
Almost certain, but that's fine. So we went into Christmas with the Tyranid book out there, and loads of Flying Hive Tyrants could be a thing. So what did you guys think of the?
I think I found what you were talking about. So it was they introduced not only do you have to beforehand you just had to have half units have to be on the board and half units have to be off the board, and then you can deep strike. And then they changed it so that you have to have at least half your power level on the board. But I think that was March again because I remember deep striking 10 Flying Hive Tyrants or something. No, I couldn't deep strike 10, but I was deep strike a good amount of Hive Tyrants with just the same number of Ripper units on the board.
Okay.
So I think that was March as well, but I'm not sure. So
All right. Well, okay. I thought that there was one during
could be
Christmas
right. You could
time
be right.
where you could. There was the first one was you couldn't deep strike if you went first on the first turn, but that's okay. Tomb King Tristan says this is when I stopped playing at Dark Angels. But before that, what did you guys think of the Tyranid book?
good book.
Was it?
Yeah, but there's lots of deep stuff in it. But there's quite a lot of units that were getting used. Things like Hive Guard, things like the Tyrant Guard are even situationally useful. I mean,
I've always wanted to play Tyranids with Tyranid warriors, but they just seemed, and they're quite attractive because they're troops, and they're like you can make quite a low model count army, but it still looks cool because it's Tyranids. But they just seem to be quite.
they also die to Reapers really easily.
Yeah, they just seem to be too many points for how resilient they were.
The issue is with all of these book releases is that our minds are so unless you were a Tyranid player, which I wasn't at the time. What happened is they release it and then everyone goes 10 Flying Hive Tyrants is busted, right? But no, hold on. But then you release it and then you think, well, what the fuck else was there? Like, and I mean that still. Like, it's quite hard when they release something that's like got a bent ass like version of it. Like it becomes the only narrative of the thing, and then it's hard to see. It's really hard if you look at a book, like and this is me, and I hope maybe this is for you guys as well. What happens is you look at the book, and then something like that stands out so much. It's like a nova, and you're trying to you're trying to see other stuff, and you're like, oh, like I mean, thing you just mentioned then. Hive Guard because they don't need line of sight, right?
No, they don't. That's
Right,
correct.
and that's that's wicked. Like with the Astra Militarum, when we were talking about CP farming, actually mortars was like bent cheap. Like, and you could have like 30 mortars. It was fucking stupid, and you could just like do a million shots. But it's hard to see beyond the kind of like bright, shiny, stupid power level of 10 Hive
So it's not like the rest of the book was bad. It was just that was so good you just don't take anything else.
and it was hard to have a conversation beyond it, like it always is. I think that's how I feel about 40k in general and Craftworld and Drukhari when we get to it. It's hard to have a conversation beyond that when I'm like, you're like, I've got some pretty good 18-inch guns, and someone's like, fuck off. They're not very good.
Not hitting anything I don't want you to hit.
Yeah, right. So you Tyranids are a 6 according to Islandrel. What do you guys think?
Go for a 5, I think.
I'll go for a 7.
I go for a 5. I go for. I wish that I'm pretty certain that all of the big monsters should have, not the Hive Tyrants, should have invulnerable saves.
Yeah, I was going to say that they had a lot of big monsters, like big cool toys. I'm sure loads of people have and want to bring to the table, but aren't necessarily that good. They've got that.
Yeah, they don't have that invulnerable save thing, right? And we just talked about that we were in an environment where we were trying to deal with Mortarion and Magnus, and then we're just like, oh, I've got this monster. It's like, cool, he's only 200 points. Cool, he dies to a couple of last cannons. Oh, sad face. Not even last cannons. I don't think last cannons were the thing at that point, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So then we got into chapter approved.
Chapter approved.
We got
Where we got some new missions. Because the missions that they released with 40k release were, in my opinion, I mean, Tommy would be better to say than me, but I got the impression that they were 7th edition style missions.
Then we got Recon.
Yeah.
So hold on, I just want Toon King Tristan saying in the chat, and I want to talk about it. He says, I played a few games with my Dark Angels, then figured out Plasma was the best thing, and everything else was shit. But I imagine what he probably worked out was Plasma was great because the strat and the bonuses, but then everything else wasn't as good.
Well, you did have 7 Dark Talons.
Yeah, but my point is, like his point, which they have Plasma on, right?
No, they had like Hurricane Bolters on them.
Oh, right,
They were like cheap versions of Storm Ravens.
All right, nice. Okay, but there was some Plasma in the list too.
No, it was just 7 Storm Ravens and like Samuel on a bike and some Talon Masters.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
But I think that's, for me, the feeling you get with all of the codexes when they get released. You're like, what's the stratagem? It's like, it's tied to traitors.
What's
Cool.
the aura effect?
Yeah,
Well,
like what did you say when you reviewed when you just talked about Chaos Codex?
I was like, shoot again, +1 to wound. That's what I'm doing.
Cool. How are the other things in the in all of Chaos Space Marines? How are the other stuff?
Well, I, as a counterpoint to that, I'd say it's impossible to build an army that uses every stratagem, and I don't think that's a good army.
I don't know. Have you seen the Chaos Demon book?
No, I do. Well, because there's not many stratagems. No, I agree with you. I'm not saying you should. For me, this is the picture I got given. So you got like, if anything, I'm with you, the listeners on your side here. What happens is the picture given to me was like, you're going to be a much more adaptable general because you're going to have all these like cards to play and be like, oh, I'll get myself out of this tricky situation. I'll play this stratagem.
You're a Swiss Army knife.
You're a much more adaptable list builder, I bet, except you find that there's one stratagem that seems to work better than all the other stratagems, and you just gravitate towards that one.
And then you spam, and then you do the stratagem.
Possible, yes.
That's how
There's only one book that has the flexibility to use various different stratagems, various different scenarios. Do you know what that book is?
Craftworld Eldar.
It may be Craftworld Eldar.
We sold on Drukhari as well.
I would say that with my Chaos list that I was playing at that time, I was doing that to an extent. So the list was built around Veterans of the Long War and Shooting Twice and this Cacophony. But then there was also a few other stratagems that were my Swiss Army knife. Mm-hmm. Like one that I can think of, which is very much a reactive one, is Chaos Familiar, where I'm sure there's other stratagems like it. Basically, for one command point, your Psyker can swap a spell. Mm-hmm. So that's a Swiss Army knife stratagem that I'd use quite a lot, because I used it in one tournament recently where I need Death Hex. I don't have it. Yeah. One command point, got Death Hex, and it won me the game. So there's little stratagems like that.
There are that if you've got like a deeper understanding of it,
yeah,
that they become reliable. Yeah.
And there are books like that. Like Knights is one of those books that can just pull various different mechanics straight out of the stratagem page, and Orcs is another one, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. So, however, let me. iCoops says here, I think Tyranids big monsters should have ridiculous amounts of wounds to compensate for their lack of invuln saves. I mean, you could just add that in invuln saves instead, right? Like it could be their thing that their biggies are running around with 20 plus wounds. Like I'd agree with that too. Like I think or you could. I mean,
You need to give them something.
Yeah, or just a resilience style thing.
Yeah.
I personally, I'd give them both.
I mean, you can say they have catalyst, but then you've got lots of big monsters and one psychic power.
Yes, which gives them good. All right, so then we get towards Christmas and we get the chapter approved where we get some awful fucking missions.
And then some beta land raiders for open play.
I forgot about those. Let's move on.
And some points changes.
Some points changes where Gulliver got like 20 points cheaper.
No, he got more expensive. But aggressors got cheaper.
They did.
Yes.
Some other stuff happened. What else happened?
And Fire Raptors got cheaper.
Fire Raptors got cheaper. And I also think, we also got some atrocious chapter approved missions, like atrocious.
Some of them were pretty bad.
They were. This was the relic in this one, or was
Recon was in this one.
Recon was in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at this point, Games Workshop had yet to produce a game, so everyone was still playing ITC or ETC missions. So we ended up doing
ETC is based off Games Workshop missions.
With Maelstrom included.
Yes, which is also a Games Workshop mission.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that the actual I would say if you're talking about a valid game, I don't think Games Workshop had yet made one based on their actual missions.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my thoughts, especially when you could just be tabled. So we were waiting with bated breath.
Kill them all.
Yeah, and we hadn't had it. So then, what was the next codex in the list?
The next codex in the list was Blood Angels.
Ooh.
Well, Blood Angels and Dark Angels came out the same month. Whatever order, I'm not sure.
Okay, hey Gozzy. So then we had the introduction of
Smash Captains.
Oh my god.
And Death Company.
Oh my! Never did we know that one man could do so much.
Oh yeah.
He's like the new Alvarad. He's just everywhere.
He just
That
one,
guy with that relic.
one Blood Angel captain everywhere in the world.
Yeah. It's a bit disappointing that he only really had one build of Storm Shield and Thunderhammer. It'd be cool if there were Smash Captains that were like lightning Claws dude or
Just comes down like John Wick style. Just guns.
Yeah, it was the same weekend. Thank you, Alendro. So he took things to. When did? No, it was after Custodes. We haven't had that yet. So he was smashing people all day long. That was fun.
Yeah.
And then Dark Angels was like, you can take plasma guns.
yeah.
That's your thing.
Damage 3 plasma if you want.
Yeah, get your and you can have a 4-pin one save on everyone.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, we saw Dark Angels almost nowhere. And then
It's
for
a shame
wasn't
because I think the bikes, what are they called?
The Black Knights.
Black Knights. I think they're a pretty cool unit. I'd like to see them more.
I would love to see
I've got
those.
a bunch of them on my spraying board right now.
They're so cool. I would love to play with those guys. The Terminators were in a tough spot at that point. Terminators were very overcosted.
I remember doing the show and it was like we drop Terminators down and they just stand there and then they just run at things slowly.
Yeah, we did a rundown on the guys with the Storm
Deathwing
Shield
Knights.
and the yeah.
You can walk them into the center of the board. It's not like they don't have uses. Virtually all right.
But Blood Angels was an exciting codex. No offense to Dark Angels and Tomb King Tristan, who
they
then
just had one thing, just like Gene Stealer Cults do.
who Blood Angels?
Yeah.
Or Dark Angels?
Blood Angels.
Oh, Blood Angels had a couple of stuff, right? Like at that point, we were like, oh, actually, not only is the Smash Captain excellent, but also potentially. At that point, we thought maybe Sanguinary Guard could be a thing.
Yep.
Yeah,
And Death Company.
And Death Company could be a thing. And for a while, they not for a while that they were, but like people were like playing it and being like, maybe I can do it.
So when I say they just do one thing,
Yeah.
I mean you jump across the board and charge.
Oh, the army does one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just they have one unit, like Dark Angels did.
Yeah.
They have one thing.
Dark Angels only had one thing. Although, no, you're right. They had the Dark Talons that were just underpointed, right? But I liked the Blood Angel release because I was like excited by combat.
Yeah.
I was like, that's quite cool.
And they had flying dreadnoughts.
Exactly.
Librarian
Yeah.
dreadnoughts,
Brad Glover says, "Fuck Smash Captains. I've played so many of them."
Especially with his Titan. Good lord, poor man.
Mr. Capacity says Black Knights are awesome. I need to pay more. Chaos Swarm. My Chaos Spawns smashes Smash Captains. And Colonel Cabbage says damage 3 plasma was great when you have lightning fast reflexes.
Yeah.
Tomb King Tristan, I take no offense. He just makes me sad that my favourite army is joke and boring. Being boring is the worst. Being boring is the worst. Having a book that doesn't work well is boring.
And their chapter tactic was a little bit boring because their chapter tactic was if you stand still. If you
gunline.
If you gunline.
If you can't be asked to move, you get a bonus.
And then they still had, as Tom pointed out earlier on, the same issue that everyone else is. It's like, so you're quite an expensive wound with a 3+ save.
Yay.
I hope you live. And also they put Camelot says, I finally made a Smash Captain, only taken me months.
It's okay, but I'm sure it's still good, right?
It's taking you like a year and a bit, yeah. So what happened after that?
After that, after the Angels of Death, we had the Custodes book.
Yeah, baby.
And the Demons. So we had the Demons pamphlet.
Now, speaking of things that had one thing.
Yeah.
Custodes.
Yeah, Custodes.
Do you like
Dawn
bikes?
Eagle jet bikes.
Dawn Eagle jet bikes and more captains.
What's better, Smash Captain or the Dawn Eagle jet bike?
Well,
They're
surely
different uses.
it wasn't the captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike who was just the worst.
Shield Captain.
Shield
Yeah,
Captain.
Shield Captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike. So again, they released some models. There was some cool stuff. Alorus Terminators, a bunch of different things, Custodes, and then we all were like,
Pity you didn't see him.
Yeah, we didn't see them because the bikes were super undercosted and dumb good. They hit on 2s.
I think we're still the same points, aren't they?
They just won an event
Hey
recently.
Rob, the Custodes got their Forge-World codex for their Forge-World
Recently,
units,
yes.
didn't they? Admech didn't they? Did they?
Yes. All right. Wow. Wow. Okay, throwing some shade across the field. Okay.
What just happened? Who are you flaming now?
Rob.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, it was just. Let's rate that chapter approved. FYI, we didn't do that out of 10.
4.
3.
Gave some good points class changes.
Yeah, 4.
Okay. This, by the way, if you're listening, you're like, oh wow, these guys are really giving them a kick in. There is going to be like a light at the end of the tunnel because some of the more recent stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, good job.
Yeah.
So I'm like, don't worry.
We're getting your expectations low.
Yeah, Custodes, I was super excited. Love the lore. Really into the lore. They messed that up loads, but that's fine. Lore people are always lore war people are always the worst. You've changed the lore that I've already read. Oh, it's their fucking IP. Change it as much as they like, but still made me sad. They had some cool paint schemes, and then turns out bikes were super good. And then
By cool paint schemes, you mean that gold spray?
no, there was other ones in the book that you just haven't
no, I
seen
didn't
them
see those.
because you've been at tournaments.
Yes.
Yeah, where everything's contrast paint. Also, I went to Games Workshop, saw the contrast paints recently.
Yeah.
FYI, they're shit.
Are they?
Yeah, some of them does
They're
look
shit.
a bit crap.
They're shit.
Some of them look good. I like some of the greens, the red, and a couple of like
The yellows didn't
maybe the yellows didn't look great.
Okay.
Well, it just pulls. Like they've showed it all on Power Armor, and it just pulls.
So it's a wash.
It's a wash.
It would look better. I think it would look a lot better
On organics.
on stuff which has got a lot more recesses and bumps and stuff like that. Flat
Did you just
surfaces.
paint
I
on
don't
like
think look great.
the side of your hand?
No, they've got in Warhammer World. They've got like loads of marines set up with the paints next to each one,
All right.
so you can see that one on that particular.
They've literally done every single one.
Yeah.
And they look not great.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've seen them all. But I've seen it on like a Poxwalker. The yellow on a Poxwalker looks fucking good.
Yeah, like on organic stuff, it works because it's meant to look that way. But again, you have the same problem that you always have when you apply a wash because everyone's done a model where you've sprayed it white and then applied a wash. You'll just have it pull somewhere, which means you need to paint over it. And you still need to highlight if you wanted to do highlighting. And if you're washing models, you're not someone who highlights.
If you want to paint an army in a week, there's a product that's been out for fucking ever.
Called
Cool.
dip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The armor painter quick shade.
I bought some of that dip
it
the
does,
other day. I bought
It's
some.
fucking
Yeah.
fucking great.
It's really good. And wait, I also can I show you? I bought some contrast paint though because I was excited. Let me get it for you.
Okay, what's he gonna pull out his bag?
It's just a fucking can of spray. Yeah, and you just spray it
What
the
are
color.
you spraying that with that?
Demons.
I thought you were doing Zinch.
Oh, yeah, they don't have to be blue, Tom. You're so color centric.
I'm just colorblind.
Oh, this is red.
Okay.
Yeah, and anyway, but you spray something red and then you dip it, and you've done the job.
there
It
you
looks
go.
like a blue to me.
This looks blue.
Yeah.
You sweetheart.
No, I'm not actually colorblind,
It
but
says red.
okay. I can't read.
I'm not doing my demons blue. It's rubbish. It's boring. Just because it says blue demons, don't pigeonhole me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, are they your blue horrors? You're like, no, they're my red horrors.
Yeah. Say something to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going against a narrative, just like Games Workshop with the Custodes release. Get us back on track. So
That
bikes
was a really
were
nice segue.
yeah, bikes were too good,
Yes.
I mean, it was
And-
more a meta thing, though, I think.
and
Because
shield captains on bike were too good.
What annoyed me about the release is that they were too good, and all you saw was armies of jet bikes. very little armies of some foot-slugging dudes, bit of a mix, you know.
Oh, we have had some pushback on the paints, but FYI.
Oh, really?
Fine.
Alan Joss says Peachy on stream earlier this week suggests thinning the contrast with some contrast medium for use on flat surfaces. So
But you got to buy contrast medium as well.
there's a contrast medium, which I heard.
Is there a contrast big too?
Just don't buy it. But anyway, let's move on.
So also at the same time we had the Chaos Demons codex.
Oh, I remember coming to play. You were playing in a heat for AOS, I think.
All right.
And I came down to buy the book, didn't I? And I was reading it in Bogman's Bar.
Yeah, the demons. Did it take you all of 5 minutes to read the stratagems?
Yeah.
Yes, because that's what we're talking about. Because you were really tired.
There were none.
Yeah, there's a few. That were okay.
It's like a White Dwarf Codex, but with more bloodthirsters than I had stratagems.
But I've had fun with the corn bit.
Yeah.
You have had fun with the
Yeah,
corn
that
bit.
was when the bloodletter
You're
bomb
doing your
really,
one thing.
really kicked
Your
into
one thing.
my one thing.
But
then
really well.
But no toolkits.
then there's the few stratagems that you use, but then the Swiss Army knife point of this, the one stratagem that I always keep up my sleeve. Well, no, maybe there's two. So there's one which you can use if you make a positional error. If you charge your demons in and they're out of your demon prince range and they've still got a hero nearby, you can use reroll all hits within 6 of a demon hero, which I used at the weekend because I fucked up with my demon prince.
Well, that's good.
But the other one, which is the other demon stratagem, which I love, which I very rarely get to use, but it's always there. So if your opponent miscasts, powers the warp, you can make them take 2d3 damage.
That's a big one, yeah. I don't
instead
like
of d3.
that.
It's really nice.
I take an extra weird boy just because of that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So it's a
really nice.
thing.
Yeah.
And also, Nurgle demons have done fairly well for a while.
Yeah, just by sitting there.
Just by sitting
Standing-
there.
standing on board.
And what's nice about them is because they don't have the rampant damage output that like other books or units, Special Captain, have had, that they've kind of avoided the nerf bat a lot because it's hard to complain about it. You're like, what did you do? I played Nurgle. What did it do? It just stood there and I lost. You're like,
It walked at me and now I can't move.
yeah, you don't kind of get the rampant complaints of like his
destroyed me in a
his
turn.
knight took me off in a
At
turn.
least I got to play in my little 2x2 corner of the board,
Yeah.
shooting zombies.
Yeah, so it's quite clever of the Nurgle players to just not build a non-offensive build that just sits.
You say that Scott when he went to Heat 2 or something a couple of years ago when the World Cup was on. They just called it turn 1 and went to the pubs to watch the England-Sweden game.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to happen. Yeah.
Alan just says the biggest issue with foot-slogging custodians is their shooting is kind of anemic, which I'd agree with. Dan Swiffer says, "Damn it, man! I covered this on Monday. They taste bad and they're resin-based, so they're not non-toxic.
taste bad.
They're not non-toxic.
Taste.
Talking about contrast paints,
He's
that
eaten
you
the
can't
contrast
have them. They're toxic.
Yeah.
So there we go. Do notice this contrast gives a worse finish than a base coat shade, so why bother? Hashtag change my mind. I also agree with that statement.
Fair
Like
enough.
they suck.
That's a shame.
But games are actually about hyping it. Shouldn't we all just buy loads of it straight away just because they're hyping
I
it
was so
loads?
ready to be convinced.
Didn't everyone already buy it all? So even if we liked it, we couldn't buy it.
It's
I
already
think that's
sold.
that's their strategy.
Yeah.
They hype everyone
but
up.
it's a terrible business strategy because all you're doing is you're just disaffecting the customer. The customer's like, because in order to, like, this is coming from me from years of marketing experience, the thing that you do is you develop trust with the customer base. So you say to someone, this is good. And then the customer goes, great, I trust you. If you go, this is good, and you lie, and then your customer buys it, they go, I'm not listening to that guy again. And it's really fragile trust with a consumer. Like, are there any like?
Ironclads, Pog.
Yeah. Are there any big? Are there any big companies that you guys trust?
No.
Like, none.
Not at all. No.
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 No, I mean like from the quality of like product or like something that you like respect.
Oh right. Yeah. Okay. No. Still no.
I've always
Blizzard.
Really,
I
No,
like
come
I like
on.
their games.
you like their games, which is fine.
You seem a mess at the Overwatch League, dude.
Oh, well, that's
no, I've never played them.
I've never played that. I like their games, but I would say I like Logitech actually.
Logitech's good. Yeah.
Logitech's generally put some good products
Yeah.
out that I've never had an issue with. I don't really trust Apple. I think they're pretty shitty.
Do you want to buy £999 a dollar mic stand for your laptop?
But what I mean is,
why not? It's great.
what I mean is generally it's tough business
Yeah.
to not make your customer trust you. So that would be
Yeah.
Jim 1080 says, this iPhone is good. We are definitely not listed to you. Jim 1080 work for Apple.
This is revolutionary. No.
Valerie reckons that Blizzard sucks.
Blizzard.
There we go. But we'll move on. I don't know how we've got onto such a contrast.
Yeah.
It's just because it's out at the minute, right?
Yeah.
And we're all like, what? Down Unsupervised, also hi Down Unsupervised, says,
Good
yeah, need alcohol to sterilise it. That's how it works, right? It just wants to get drunk. That's all it is.
Some of the medium. in there.
Ixam says people do get annoyed by the Piper plus Plague Bearers if they keep coming back. Which is fair.
On the morale test, yeah, it's kind of funny.
Well, yeah, maybe that's people's fault. For if they spread damage out across the units, then that's going to happen. If you focus on one till it's dead, then you can't be disappointed.
Okay.
Unless there's one left in a minute.
Yeah, unless there's
That's
one
the
left, then
morale.
you just rage quit the game.
Yeah, sounds good.
And then Scrivo disagrees. He says, I'm enjoying contrast. But then Scrivo...
Scrivo can't paint.
Wow.
And when that
I
comes from
never even said it. But I'm using
Tom
it
does
as
have the authority to say that, though. He is a hobby award.
I'm an award-winning hobbyist.
award-winning hobbyist, yeah. Right, so where are we up to? Because we've still got so far to
We've
go.
just covered demons, and not a lot happened there, apart from bloodletters and plague bearers.
No, we did. I got, again, incredibly sad that Bloodthirsters was shit.
Oh yeah, bloodthirsters were shit. I've got full bloodthirsters. I
Can
really
point
want them to
something
be
out
good.
here? You can
Go
get
ahead.
each bloodthirster is 250 points.
Now.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can get 8 bloodthirsters in an army,
You can't.
or you can get 4. Yeah, you can, because there are lots of different types of bloodthirster.
Right, that's what you're
Yeah. So now, if you're going to the Hellstorm doubles, you can take 4 bloodthirsters as your 1,000 points.
It'd be garbage though.
It'd be funny.
No.
So I took
Garbage.
one
Hot garbage.
I took one to a heat, and out of 5 games, I think he saw combat for a total of 5 turns.
Yeah, but imagine if you had 8 though. 7
Yeah.
might die, but 1 will get in combat.
Yeah.
No, you make a
And then
good
he'll-
argument.
and then
You
he'll
make a
have one
good
attack and
argument.
then die.
Yeah.
No, you get a bloodthirster in combat every single game.
No, he's right. He has got us there.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
weren't shit. We just weren't taking enough.
Enough of it.
Yeah,
And we were
you
trying
need
to win.
double down.
And we were trying to win games.
Oh, yeah, no,
That's
fair.
a huge mistake in
yeah,
our
you
list
need to
building.
double down on this
Right.
bloodthirster
Fair
spam.
enough.
Is something shit? Yes, more of
Can I
it.
spam it? No, unless it's a bloodthirster when I can.
Yeah, that was my problem. I should have done that with my AdMech. I just gave up on them too early.
Yeah.
So what's next after that?
So Thousand Suns came after that.
Oh, I like this release,
It disappointed me when it dropped because it made Magnus very sad.
which it needed to, because he was still a bully.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
He's still kind of like a one-shot kind of Shining Spear type unit where you just launch him halfway across the board and punch something in the head. But sad. I don't know,
When was the FAQ? Was it after Thousand Suns?
Yeah.
In hindsight, I'd probably give this book an 8.
Oh yeah, sorry. Custodian's book. We gave it. I'll give it a hot 5.
7 for me.
I'll give it a 6.
Dude, I don't think so. 200 bits for Tom's soft score hobby win. You give it a 6 and you give it an 8. All right, sweet. And then we got the FAQ. Oh my god.
Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
We've still got 3 more
So
books
3
between them and the
books.
FAQ.
Guess what they were, Rob?
See if you can get it. How's your history?
Ah, okay. So Thousand Suns, Demons.
I think you'll get 2. And I think we'll get all 3.
And then one was Drukhari.
One was
Correct.
Drukhari, yeah.
One was Knights.
No.
Oh, wait. So Drukhari wasn't Space Wolves. That was way, way later.
No, it wasn't that.
One was Necrons.
One was Necrons.
Yeah, one was Necrons, one was Drukhari, and one was... Are there any Space Marines left at that point? I don't think there was.
Apart from Space Wolves. But
The other one is an army. I'll give you a clue. It's an army that a really fat person might play who can't be asked to move.
Tell me.
Tau.
Oh, fuck.
oh, no.
Yeah, so, let's talk about those.
Yeah.
The Tau Codex. What did we all think? They changed
They
reptiles,
changed
didn't they?
commanders, didn't they? They limited the number of commanders.
That was the first time we saw a limit to something.
Yeah,
we
which
were
is
like,
yeah.
maybe we're going to limit things.
I like that because the amount of salty tears it produced was just lovely.
Yeah, people were very, very excited. We didn't miss Craftworld Eldar, don't you worry. We rowed about that already.
No, when you say we, you mean you
Yeah.
two.
And then, so what do we give Tau?
A 6 for the salty tears.
I'd like to talk more about it, but I just can't be bothered.
Yeah, it was boring and it made it less boring because at least now you could laugh at the
Yeah, they made my
Supremacy suit.
My Talnar Supremacy suit even more expensive and worse.
Yes.
So
And we're still there plugging it out.
So I'm giving it a 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll give it a 3.
Okay.
Unimaginative 2. Yeah, I suppose the book plays exactly like the army is meant to play, right? Like, that's how they work. That's their thing.
Yep.
But why can't you make robot suits that fight?
You can. It's called Commander Farsight.
That's one.
That's a robot suit.
No, what I mean is like as a
combat attachment.
Yeah, it's like a model range. Like why?
Sure, hopefully they will do at some point.
Yeah, no.
Or give them some more like alien auxiliary stuff that
Like more
is
crude
combat.
stuff.
Yeah, more
like
crude
the,
stuff.
What was the thing with the look like a gorilla with a Kroot on him?
Crutox.
Crutox, and then you had the big fucker dinosaur.
Dan and Supervisor says it's been a sexy 11 months and it's time to get into 40k. So Dan and Supervisor's listening to this history journey. And then Hypnocracker says, "Don't do it, Dan."
He plays Dispossessed. He likes a bit of pain.
He does. He could join it. Plus, if he's new into it, then you can just buy whatever he likes. So Tau, we've done that, and then Necrons.
Necrons.
7.
7. Why? Just because of how much it upset Nick?
Well, also you got Tesla Immortals, which go pew pew, and you had some stratagems for destroyers, and you had the Tesseract Vault with all the powers.
This was the Tesseract Vault.
The Tesseract Vault build.
The Tesseract Vault.
Oh my god!
Just 3 buildings floating around.
3 buildings.
And the Deceiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bit boring.
I'm gonna give it a 4. It was shit.
I liked it
Why?
because of the Tesseract Vaults.
Because of 4 buildings.
It's like Hal's Moving Castle.
I'll give it a
great.
6. It did reignite my passion for Necrons to some extent for a
Until
little
you
while.
read the Doom Scythe.
Huh?
Until you read the Doom Scythe page.
Yeah.
Pure Evil says Necrons 10 out of 10 best codex.
There you go.
You evil son of a bitch.
All right, and then we had Drukhari.
Yes, Drukhari, and then we had they were a bit of a landmark, weren't they? They had the first fuck you stratagem.
They did. The first Vect.
Yeah.
The first Vect.
Yeah.
8 or a 9 for me on that one.
The codex.
Yeah.
Oh, they had like a bit of a massive rework, and what I heard was that Games Workshop rules team reached out to a lot of like Dark Eldar podcasters for advice. I don't know if that's true or not, but that seems like a bad idea.
That sounds like a lie.
It might
That
be
is the
pure
worst
bullshit.
group to ask, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if they
No, it's not. It's the second worst. Tau players are worse.
were to reach out for a Dark Angels codex.
No, if you're reaching out for advice on how to do your own codex, you don't ask Tau players.
Yeah, no, that's
never
Nick's
enough.
point. You don't reach out to anyone.
Oh, right, I thought you meant specifically
Oh, no.
for Drukhari players.
Yeah, I would. Yes, that seems like a mistake.
And also, I think, was this the first codex where they had some weird stuff where you can basically, I pay 1 command point to make another character a
that was-
warlord, and then they get D3 command points. So basically, you get 3 command points and a free warlord trait.
So Jim 1080 says I give Tower 8 out of 10, but on because my Spanish the Riptide is called a Cataclysmo.
El Cataclysmo.
Trio Cataclysmo.
I'll remember that for ETC.
Yeah, you should remember that.
Talking about the Cataclysmo, we know he's not saying his game's going badly.
Yeah.
We know he's talking about his riptide.
Shirok says Necrons all day, and Colonel Cabbage says I nominate Necrons for the biggest disparity for pre and post release hype.
Pog.
Yeah.
Contrast paints in a close second, I think.
What about 8th edition as a whole?
Wow, that was the hot take. Why would you say something so brave and yet so
Because
true?
it's spicy.
Alandor says commanders with 3 weapon hardpoints and a support hardpoint and always on aura, so they aren't just crisis suits with like double the damage output. And Colonel Cabbage says it's not a lie. They did reach out to podcasters apparently.
Why would you do that?
I don't know. But listen. So Drukhari, nay or yay? You
Yeah,
nined.
I liked it.
Nined.
Because I had a lot of depth in my book and it also gave you quite a lot of tricks that really shook up the game.
I've forgotten what out of 10 is for. Is it that we liked it or the
At this stage, say a number.
I mean, if a 10 is bad,
4.
then but what you gave
4. I
Craftworlds
give
are
it
the best.
4 because I had a little bullshit in there, like the
bullshit, Eldar.
free command point for
Yeah, I give this
no
a-
risk or reward. No, there's no risk in it.
Yeah.
Just like it's just do this and you get free shit.
Yeah, I give it a 1.
Kind of stuff.
Same with Craftworld Eldar, and I put them both into a separate game. I actually would listen. Just do with that. Just take those 2 army books, Yeah, because I like mirror matches. I love them. I think they're really interesting. Take those 2 army books, put them in their own tournament series.
play.
Yeah, and then just let everyone else
We
play.
should play the League of Eldar.
Yeah, the league. Yeah,
League
just,
of Eldar.
Tom, you can be in charge. Just send them over there. Everyone can play, and then everyone else can play. 40K.
I kind of want to play in that. I kind of want to play in.
Yeah, sounds fun, right? And
love a
then
good
Alandro
Eldar,
says Drukhari 10 out of 10 except for Vect. And it's because I'm comparing them all like to each other, right? Like compare it to demons. You're like Bloodthirster, awesome. It's fucking shit. And then you go Drukhari, unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, if
Like a
it-
Talos is better than a Bloodthirster.
we're saying, but,
yeah. Yeah, a transport,
Changed my mind.
a transport for Drukhari is better than a Bloodthirster.
well, a unit of 3 Talos.
A
is
Wave
better than-
Serpent is better than a Bloodthirster.
A Wave Serpent is better than a Bloodthirster.
I like how I think it's all in context, and therefore, if you're comparing them to all the other books, and yet we're giving them all 4s and 2s.
Because some of the like, for instance, the Mechanica book was like and still to this day, even when you start, you have to use the other detachment that you get from the expansion to even make Mechanicum a thing, or like, and they're still, and they're doing now okay-ish, and that's like a year and a half later. And look at you, you're like not even okay-ish, yeah, right?
No comment on that.
No, exactly, right?
Is anybody in ETC talking about Admech?
No comment.
No one is.
No one gives a fuck. Right, anyway. Not who's that? A Wave Serpent is better than a Land Raider.
Yeah.
Yes. I don't put Wave Serpents in my list when I want to make them worse.
And Witch King says not as bad as Grey Knights, which also... Yeah, also, Witch King, hi. I really like that guy. He's a great guy. So is also Big Goldfish. They're all of the people watching. There we go.
Just those 2. That's all
No,
of the
all of
people
them.
watching.
Only those 2 are great.
Yeah. Also, Aladro says an Empire Steam Tank is better than the Bloodthirster. Also agree.
Empire Star Steam Tanks?
No,
Old,
just an
old school
Empire-
Empire Steam Tank where you had to pay Steam points.
Yeah.
Fucking loved that.
Oh, I've got that, yeah.
That was
I remember
great.
doing that.
That was
I've
fucking
actually
brilliant.
played that, yeah.
Kobe says Dark Eldar book is great because you can remove the broken shit and it still has loads of fun and competitive options. It does.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Next?
I actually haven't. Do you know I have a whole Dark Eldar army?
Yeah, yeah. You
I've
mentioned
never
in a week
used
and
it because it
everywhere,
just
yeah.
feels like it just. I'm like, I can't be fucking bothered. Like the book came out, I was like, oh, grotesques, and then like people started putting their list up. I was like, nah, fuck that. Like this, nah, I can't be bothered. Like just rubbish.
Fair
Anyway.
play. Cool. Next?
Well, next up was Codex
No,
Big
it-
FAQ 1.
Yes.
Oh.
7.
So this is when they made it so that you couldn't spam units. We all like
Rule of
that.
3. We all liked that.
Yes. This is where you now
Sad.
couldn't deep strike on the first turn.
Sad.
Sad face.
They also gave more command points for battalions and brigades.
They
at this
also
point.
increased the cost of Dark Reapers and Flying Hive Tyrants.
They did do both of those, but most importantly, and the thing, because of the Custodes release, and they were like, oh, Custodes aren't doing so well, they need more CP. So what they did was they released loads of books beforehand where all of their stratagems were based on some sort of CP equivalent. However they worked it out, 1 to 3. Nothing cost 4 at that point, I don't think.
No.
So 1 to 3, they were like, right, so the general ecosystem of the game is going to rock around this much CP. And then they were like, cool, so we'll release stratagems in that environment with that much. So you'll be able to do kill shot stratagem this many times probably, and that's about it. It's like, sweet. And then they were just like,
They'll have to make choices and decisions.
choices and decisions. Then they went, let's just give them more
Just
arbitrarily.
print more money.
Just print more money.
Just have loads more.
And that's how it works, right?
Yeah.
That's how it works. If you just want the game to work, absolutely, you just arbitrarily just release more power.
Yeah, the cycle continues.
Yep, the cycle continues. Tom, did you like the more CP?
I did like multi-P because it meant I could do more Fire and Fades. Although I didn't actually do those because I was spending 2 CP on Fire and Fade, which costs 1, and 2 CP on that strategy, which also costs 1 for most of the next 6 months.
Nick, did you use more of the CP on your Necrons? At this point, you've given up on Necrons, I think.
I think I was still going with the Necrons at this point. Yeah,
okay.
I was still giving it a good.
And were you
go,
happy
a
about
good
more
old
CP?
college try?
Yeah, the good old college try. So the FAQ generally, I didn't think was great. This is the part of the story that we're into.
I think they also at this point a major change which didn't really. I think because they stopped people stacking damage saves DPRs.
Yes, they
At
did.
that point, so you could only use 1.
Which
Choose
I remember at the
one,
time you
yeah.
specifically being like, why? Who was using that?
Yeah, I couldn't think of any Well, I
Tyranid
personally
players
wasn't.
with Catalyst and
It's
Leviathan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hermanist just coming in saying CP is still Games Workshop's biggest fail in 8th edition, and he also says this evening. I think there's probably a conversation to have at the end, right? We'll do like an edition review, especially if Nick's rumour based on that Chapter Master Valorant video proves to be right. Bless you.
Thank you.
If it is wrong, I'll blame him
Yeah.
for giving me the fake news.
I agree. So they also made it so that you, in a game which was dominated by gun lines, they made it so that you couldn't deep strike your combat guys in the first turn.
Yay!
Yeah.
Rip drop pods.
Yeah.
I think they were more aiming to stop people dropping down shooting stuff, because as far as I was, myself, that's what I was mainly doing at the time. With my Chaos Space Marine, I was dropping in a lot of plasma, a lot of Terminators and
No,
stuff like
this
that.
was the one where you couldn't deep strike outside of your deployment turn in the first turn.
Right.
Because then later they did one where you couldn't deep strike at all in the first turn because people were using it with Ravagers and deep striking them into their own deployment zones for safety, so you couldn't get out struck on.
Couldn't shoot them, yeah.
That's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did that review of that show, and you can listen to it. But there was not much love from us for that FAQ. It fixed none of the problems, with the exception of spam.
Yeah.
And then
they
helped
changed
with outreaches.
they changed soup a little bit at that point. They
the
stopped
keywords.
using Imperium, Chaos, or what else did they change?
Eldari.
Eldari
But you
for
could still
your
use Asa
for your
Yoni.
detachments.
yeah.
You could still see Craftworlds, just
Yeah.
not with Drukhari.
And you can still soup just 3 different
And
detachments.
Marines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Craftworlds and Marines still get it. But
Okay. So I personally didn't like that FAQ at all. But FYI, this isn't my least favourite FAQ that they did. So how did you rate the
No.
FAQ?
6.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 3 for the rule of 3.
I'm going to give it also a 3 for the rule of 3. I think that was a little shiny diamond in a pool of cess, which is very 40k.
Okay.
That's very
Yes.
40k. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the next codex that came out?
Next up was Deathwatch,
Deadwatch.
8.
which brought loads of crazy rules. Really complicated codex, right?
Yeah.
Arguably the
Loads
most
of
complicated codex.
Mixed squads.
It
with
took ages for people to
different-
break that down and work out how it worked.
and
Yeah.
all the special issue ammunition.
Yeah.
And what I find hilarious is that the Deathwatch have the best Space Marine bikers in the world, whereas you'd think White Scars should have the best bikers in the world.
That's too narrative.
Oh, wait, that wasn't the one where they didn't nerf flying in that. No, they didn't nerf flying in that. I think that was later.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah, so Deathwatch came out.
they did.
But yeah, they're
Deathwatch came out.
complicated.
Complicated, interesting, and I think it was actually quite, like, popularity-wise, it's quite niche, effectively. If you compare it to Demons, vast collections, basically 4 different armies they released in a pamphlet, and then they released a very small model range in quite, like, it had a lot of stratagems, a lot of counter stuff, which is interesting. And on the back of Vect, did we talk about Vect enough? Like, it was fine, but with Vect being in the field, like,
is fine.
people had to question their stratagems more.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then along the same time with Deathwatch, we had Harlequins as well that came out.
I thought they were
Was this the
similar
first
to that one.
ever Harlequins codex?
no,
No.
there was
No?
one before.
Oh, was there? Okay.
There was one before.
I'm going for a 6 on that one.
So wait, hold on. What are we giving Deathwatch? What did we give it?
I'm going to give it an 8.
I go an 8 too.
Also an 8. I really like it.
Cool.
There we go. Interesting. Good. One of their better pieces of work. Codex Harlequins. Fucking love the narrative. Love the narrative. Really cool. Love the army, as you all know.
Did
And
they get
qu-
any new models at this release, or
No.
was it just a codex?
Just
When
Codex.
When did they get the Skyweavers in that?
No, that was years ago. Not now. It wasn't in this one. Promise.
Okay.
There's no new models. There are no new models, but cool. They're cool models. It's obviously like quite a small release, effectively, but enough to get its own codex and not a White Dwarf edition.
Yeah.
Which
Proper
is fun.
codex.
An actual proper codex, and it had some cool narrative, and I thought some pretty cool rules. But then, as you started to play through, you were like, the concept of the problem is you had already had the bikers come out from custodes, so you already had and everything else
If you
that's
like
fucking.
lots of bikers with lots of shots, then you've already gone for that army, right?
No, sorry, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, the concept of there being some toughness 3, 4 up invulnerable, save wounds is great, but they're not toughness 5, 3 wounds on a model
Toughness
of
6.
custodes.
4 wounds.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm talking about the baseline troops for custodes.
Oh right, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the bikers again.
No. So, but the bikers are a good counter, just like that sheer volume of shots. And there are a bunch of other things that you could talk about. But the thing that was very popular at that point was lots of bikers. So you'd be like, I've got to have loads of troops, like as in not troops TROOP, but TROUPE for.
Harlequins.
Yeah, Harlequins. But I'm stressing this too much. I really want. It's a really tiny faction, realistically, and it's shit.
Do you think how many points per model are the troops? Do
They were like
can
18,
they,
19.
You reckon they can go down? If they go down too much, they could be too
No,
good?
because you
or
can,
is it just
you get a max squad size. The max squad size can't go inside of a transport. Yeah, so and then depending on what you equip them with, like weapons wise, you still have to get a troop master involved in the fight as well. So they can get across the board in the first turn, or they can deep strike and do some charges. But imagine it's kind of like Orc Boys, only you've got a third as many wounds, and they don't do any damage. That is how I would describe troops.
Okay.
To give it some context for both of the Orc players.
You run at people, get in combat, and then die.
Yeah, I mean, but the bikes are good. They just got a really limited set, and we've already spent so long talking about these when we just glanced over fucking Necrons, right? Like they sucked. Yeah. Well, like so, but at the time though, there was some little janky stuff inside of Harlequins. I thought they were cool, so I wanted to play them.
But most people picked up the bikes, didn't they?
Later,
The haywire bikes.
yeah. So I give it an 8.
I'm giving it a 6. It was another high skill army. It was kind of fun, but I didn't get to see much of it.
It was absolutely.
I'm gonna give it a 10.
Because of how much it upset me. That's so fucking mean.
And then after that, we got knights,
10.
big boys.
Oh my god, why are you giving it a 10?
I'm gonna give it a
You
10 as
just
well.
like giving
Because it was unbelievably flexible.
I'm gonna give it a 10.
There was
yeah.
so many, like, it wasn't just a book where you dropped it and you're saying, oh, this is the go-to way to run it, right? Even with the Castellan, that wasn't necessarily a knight build where it was the go-to way to run it. There were so many ways that you could run this book. You could run it any way you wanted and make it competitive. And you had so many tools in the CP arsenal that really fit the design philosophy at the start of the edition. It was just a fun book.
I suppose, and this. If I'm wrong, then feel free to push back on it. Like, I suppose the way we're looking at it is a different kind of metric. I'm looking at it as kind of like an ecosystem conversation, where, like, what was it impact in the environment?
Well, what environment are you talking about?
The gaming environment.
Well, I'm talking about the competitive environment.
Yeah, that's the one.
The gaming is a bit more like, I don't know.
The competitive environment is still one. Yeah,
Yes.
right. But you need to go dial back a little bit, because what you're effectively saying about the competitive environment is anything that is strong and can produce a win is good.
Well, that's what competitive is.
Agreed. I absolutely agree. However, from an environment where you want a competitive environment that's interesting, yeah, which I would say, I imagine you would be super chuffed to go play an Eldar tournament with 100 Eldar players.
Yeah, I would. I love it.
Excellent. Yeah. No, and that's absolutely okay. Yeah. And I'm like, it's more for the viewers to hear as opposed to like to pick.
But it's not just necessarily about producing a win, because otherwise I'd be saying things like Tyranids were a 10 out of 10 when they dropped, because their book with 10 flying hive tyrants could produce a win at any time. But I didn't do that, because at the end of the day, when you're producing a book like Knights that can compete and can get you those wins, but also does it in a way where you can produce any different kind of build and it still be competitive, you're producing a large amount of diversity in the community and in the competitive gaming sphere, so you're always playing a different game against the Knights.
Agreed from a single instance, which is as a person with the Knight book. But in the ecosystem, what it does, it's a bit like when we talked about Harlequins a second ago. The release of the Harlequins was cool, yeah? I would have liked to have played it, but when we talk about it in a competitive environment, because of the release of the Custodes, the release of the Harlequins is inferior, because into the competitive environment they're worse. The ecosystem is worse because there's things that invalidate the release.
Okay,
is the point.
Yeah, I know. I get
so the Knight release into the ecosystem for me is a 4. I agree. Like what it did, like as a book, like if you were like, I like Imperial Knights, then fucking
okay,
like 9 out of 10.
This made me get Knights.
Exactly, right? Like, which is awesome. Like, but for the ecosystem, I felt that it was quite bad.
So the question is then, would you prefer have a bunch of Knights on the scene or have custodes with the bikers and Tesseract vaults? Because that's what the Knights pushed out.
there's a whole conversation about what it does and doesn't do, which we're not having here.
Well, I thought we were talking about the ecosystem that it created.
We are, but which is what I'm basing my points on. I'm not getting into the long, I've got an invisible force field and I've got a knife that cuts through invisible force fields conversation. I'm getting into where my points come from and where yours come from.
Yes. Okay. That's
Sweet.
fine.
That's where we're at. Just so people can hear. They're like, oh, okay, you're giving it a, like Nick gave Harlequins a 10 because they upset me.
I'm just trying to define the ecosystem that it created, right?
No, you're not. You're not. I was asking why you gave it the point. Because of its breadth and its
I'm
depth.
just trying to work out what your point is.
Oh, okay.
I think we've all lost the point at this point.
Okay. All right. I feel
Let's
like
just talk about
I've
big stompy
articulated it
robots.
well. So, yes, I gave it a 4 because I think it just created a less interesting game.
So you feel like it made Knights really, really strong, which made everyone else's gaming experience worse? Because
Yeah,
they-
it's
That was
it's
what
the
I was
same.
trying to ask.
Yeah, it invalidates a bunch. It creates a smaller ecosystem. How's that? Like where there's less options in
'cause
choices.
you have to take
Can I ask a very quick question
anti-Knight
just to follow up on that one?
stuffs.
So we were talking earlier about custodes pushing out the Harlequins. If Knights pushed out the custodes, does that not equally bring the Harlequins back?
So it's not pushing them out. That's not the point
How do you create a smaller ecosystem?
because there's less options.
Why are there less
It's a bit like we talked about vehicles without invulnerable saves.
right?
Yeah, or monsters without invulnerable saves.
How does
Because
the
they don't have invulnerable saves, they're not an option.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a smaller ecosystem because they're poorer rules.
So they're being pushed out.
Another way to describe it, yeah, absolutely, right. So, but the point is, in my opinion, that the Night book meant that you had to spec to take out toughness 8, 3-up invulnerable save, Knights, yeah, which meant that like that's what you had to spec to take out. Otherwise, they were just going to walk all over your army.
I think we just agree it's just semantics.
Yeah, but apart from you give it a 10 and I give it a 4,
Yeah.
people
I just liked it and you just didn't.
that's people needed to hear why we give it the points, right? And I think it created a worse gaming environment. Same as I felt.
Created a better one, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you liked it because it gave you option for Knights, right?
Yeah, like I'd seen the Knight models for a long time, and the book came out. It made me want to play them.
Huh?
Just book came out. Just give me the I
Je ne sais
je ne sais quoi to play to pick them up and play them.
Yeah, it just inspired you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Valerie says, until the cheap troops can give you endless powers to super elite armies, the game will never be balanced. Knight should be APOC only or a single knight as an ally, says Dude Our Day. Jimmy says, the 12-year-old in me loves the idea that games which released Custodes, Knights, a girly man made me nostalgic, cut out all the awesome stuff from the lore of old, so he liked it, which is good. And then Hermanista says, on the plus side, 1750 Pure Knights won second at the UK Expo event. Games Workshop round.
How many people went to the? Oh no, that was Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Chris.
I think there was 3 people there, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think it was 16.
Yeah. So Karl Marx said, not going to lie, everything Games Workshop done is shit and make everything worse is getting pretty boring now. Tom's make a good point. Well, Karl Marx, if you've listened to the entire of what I've said, it's not true. So you need to stop pushing your point, which I think what Carl's trying to point out is that I think there's a difference between 40k and AOS. He made a point earlier as well, so not be snide about it. We'll just get straight to the point. I don't think so. I think it's a worse game system, and I could go into a long conversation about it as to why, but it just is, in my opinion. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I don't play AOS, so I can't argue with you.
No. Yeah. But like, it is, and because of Craftworld is my like fucking rock star. Well, like we talk about all these other books, but we continuously talk. Like I did the LCO coverage, which was just fucking an amazing time to hang out with you guys and do coverage. But as a game system, as a commentator, and as the person who's done more commentating than anyone else on earth, it's fucking dull. Having to commentate a game for 2 hours where at deployment someone loses. Boring. Watching the same 2 Drukhari lists fly against each other, boring. Like, it just isn't interesting. It's not interesting for viewers, and it is interesting for gamers. Like, as a game, that's fucking fascinating, right? A mirror match between 2 absolutely uber OP shit. But for 80% of the models that you could buy from Games Workshop, a proportion of which I have, suck. Yeah, the environment is poor because of their existence.
How many units are there in 40k actually?
Fuck knows. A
Loads.
ton, right?
Loads.
Yeah, like, and a lot less than we talk
I'll be
about
able to
because
get
they
that out,
fucking
yeah.
are rubbish. Like whirlwinds. I've
Is
got
that
like
just-
3 whirlwinds.
Is that
They
just because
suck.
the game system is just so bloated and we've just got so
Yeah,
many
I
units
think
in it?
so. I think so, and I think it's like, and I want them to be able to do better. Like, and I wish that there were ways that they could. But and then they have recently. They're like the part of this story we're getting to is that they've actually improved recently, right? We all agree on that. Well, we talked about.
Yeah, they've done a lot of really good work recently.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago on this point where there's a lot of units that don't do a lot. I think the difference between AOS and 40k units is that each unit in AOS generally, on the whole, has a special thing that it does as well as an attack profile and a movement. Whereas 40k units are mainly they have an attack profile and movement, and then the special things are stratagems that are separate to the unit.
Does AOS not have stratagems now?
They have like
There's
some
command
command
abilities,
abilities.
which kind of, but it's based on a resource which is like you most of the time have one of.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you have more.
Yeah.
But it's not that for me when 8th edition came out, I was like so pumped, like so pumped to play. Like I bought like 3 armies, right? I'm like, let's play this 40k game. But as it came out, like I don't understand how you can't see. And you've seen that recently in AOS. Like Flesh Course Skaven are stupid broken, like stupid broken.
Okay.
Like the numbers are dumb.
I saw the stat show earlier.
Yeah, like
I haven't seen that go back.
Yeah, the numbers are dumb, right? So it's in the worst place it's ever been, but still, I would say a better place than 40k has been for this edition because, like, the Super Chicken when it came out was dumb.
It was very funny.
Malefic Lords, dumb. Like,
Got good news for you, Rob.
Yeah.
This edition's ending. Ninth's just around the corner.
Like, I really, really, really want to play 40k. Like, really. And the best thing that they've done so far is make it that you can't lose because you've been wiped out.
No.
And the newer,
You see?
the newer missions are good as well.
Yeah.
The newer missions are good as
The
well.
the new missions are great. We haven't got to that part of the story. That's why I said
we're
earlier
skipping
on.
ahead.
Yeah, we're skipping ahead. But I actually think that they've made some excellent changes as we move forward. But in my opinion, this was one of the worst points in 40k, where we're talking now. Drukhari release, Night release, in this journey, because it just was incredibly uninteresting, and the environment was very small. I couldn't decide to go and play something like uber techie because that isn't the game that it
I
is.
think we're just coming at it from a different perspective. So when you're talking about it from a commentary perspective, where it's just like, oh well, this game's going to snowball now. It's from a playing perspective, I kind of feel like that if you make one big mistake, you just lost the game instantly, and therefore it's kind of just like
In 40k,
yeah,
you're right. Absolutely, it's a far more knife edge game,
which is why it's just a different
and
perspective.
arguably because of that, it's more skillful. Like if you
Yeah,
make a
that's
single
the
mistake in 40k, potentially that's the game.
you can't like double turn and come back, for example.
Not even that. Like I just think, and I also think dice rolls are arguably more important in 40k, which is why people seek rerolls so much. Like it's so like intrinsic. You're like, I need to do
redundancy. Yeah.
Yeah, I need 6 damage here. I need 8 damage. Like I have to kill you because if you don't, more than likely you'll kill me. So I think you're right. I think the output in 40k is huge, phenomenal as well. Like
So it's just different perspectives on that one.
they're just no, because they're in.
It's more reliable. There's more rerolls in 40k.
What I'm
than
trying to
AOS.
say is something that could be enjoyable to play is not necessarily enjoyable to commentate. For example, cricket.
No, it's not from my personal perspective. As
I know.
as
I'm not saying it's from your personal perspective. I'm saying it's from the perspective of a participant.
yeah, but also from a viewer, right? Like,
Yeah, well, they're participating in the game.
yeah,
To
absolutely.
some degree.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Like, what was like? I'm trying to think of some games that were like super tense and close, right? Like we watched when we covered the game where we watched, and the problem is also coverage, right? I want to watch more quality coverage
Marcus versus Eric, I think is what you're going to say now, right?
of 40k. I'm talking about I'm
Game
no, I'm,
5 LCS.
no, I'm talking about bloody hell, Gene Stealer Colts
Yeah,
versus.
that was game 3. Colm versus
Yeah.
versus James McKenzie.
And James McKenzie, like after the first turn, was like, "It's done. It's all over." Right? Like in his words,
But he can know that, and Colm can know that, but the viewers are still participating because they're not as well versed necessarily potentially on those armies. As
yeah,
they
and I
should.
thought it was still an interesting game, absolutely, right? Like, and it was interesting to talk about, but like. The reason I talk about the LCO coverage and I talk about because there are games that I've played that I can talk about, but when I go and watch coverage as a viewer, like I can't watch the Games Workshop fucking coverage. Like I want to see interesting, exciting 40k and explain that to me other than going and playing it. Where is it? and I think maybe it just isn't like. I'm not overly excited about watching a Castellan just shoot. It doesn't seem engaging.
Oh right, yeah. So this is the super aspect, though. I don't think it's
maybe I don't know. Like I don't know. I just don't find where the game is at, or was at that point in the game, engaging in any way. And how long have you been saying the first turn problem? Are you still saying the first turn problem?
I'm still disputing the first turn problem. I'm still disputing it.
I think we've re-clarified it to it being the all at one time problem.
You okay, Rob? Yeah. What's that
Go on.
The everything all at once problem.
The everything all at once problem, I think, is the problem.
My entire Tau gun line shoots all at once before you've even shot a single bullet. Yeah, you can lose in one round without doing anything, and also it's not as realistic or cinematic, in my opinion, as well. Like, why would one army stand still and be shot while the entire
it's
other
your turn
army
to shoot
shot?
me in the face. It's like Russian slapping contests.
Yeah. Like,
But our hopes are that like chapter approved and things like that's why I was very disappointed by that chapter approved and that FAQ, because in my opinion gun lines had been doing excellent, and we did talk about it, Tom, if you remember. We talked about gun lines being so good inside 40k. Then that FAQ occurred.
Yeah.
and made it
But maybe I think gun line's better, because I was running Dark Reapers at the time. The problem that Dark Reapers had was lots of big monsters deep striking in your face, and now you can't do that. So now gun lines are free to roam the grass.
And you were like, "This is a field day," and I was like, "This is shit." Because what it's done is an ecosystem is it's removed my option to attack your gun line.
The FAQ, yes,
Absolutely,
I don't disagree with you at all.
Yeah, and that's what. Anyway, let's move on.
In the short term,
I just wanted to respond to someone trying really hard to poke at me.
That covers Knights.
Yeah.
That was me, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't. It was the chat.
Oh, it should have been me. I should have done it harder.
Space Wolves. Space Wolves came next. Space Wolves came next. What did they change about the game?
Well, they showed us
a
that
good intercept strategy.
you also got
a nice paper handout.
paper handout for your command ability, right?
Oh yes.
No, for your warlord traits. Yeah.
One of the great codex fuck ups.
It was not well received.
No, it wasn't.
If we've got a codex.
They have got a codex apparently. Yeah. You were disappointed, Tom.
I was getting really excited.
You used to love Space
I
Wolves.
do still love Space Wolves.
Wolfrunner's still a thing, though, right?
Yeah, I'm probably going to run Space Wolves after ETC's over.
I think Wolfrunner are a thing. But again, like if you could drop them down in the first turn and throw them at your opponent, that might be a thing.
That'd be funny. Oh, you hit a screen, but it'll still be funny.
Yeah.
They also had at that time one of the weird stratagems where you could have a Space Wolf character tell another Imperium unit to shoot something that deep striked.
So it was like the Eldar one where you
kind of like Eldar
and shoot it as it arrives on the battlefield from reserves.
But then they changed it later to a Space Wolf unit.
Yeah, okay, that's about the most notable thing in the Space Wolf book.
Yeah.
Alejandro says, I love my wolves, but the book was such a miss. It was a miss.
The most notable things that we can think about it when we were talking about it there was two mistakes that Games Workshop made.
So I got two questions. I got a question, right, which maybe like would put a
question?
pin. Yeah, well, a question, and it's a loaded one. So if you don't want to take the bait, that's fine. So the issue I felt with 40k, and I still feel, FYI, was the Craftworlds Eldar release, right? And I've made my feelings very clear on this, not just on this show, but all shows.
Do you love them?
But since its release, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because, and I know there is the internal balance, which we maybe should do an entire show once where we all talk about internal balance versus maybe game balance, like as a thing.
Yeah,
like
fine.
a book itself is balanced. Anyway, the thing about power creep as well is one thing that we hear about, and you never hear about it in 40k. No one ever talks about power creep in 40k because what you would do.
Craftworlds Eldar got released early.
Right. So that's my point, right?
You're exactly where you were going.
And maybe that's why I feel like the release is stagnant, right? So Space Wolves has no effect because Craftworlds Eldar and potentially also Drukhari are already out at this point, right? So they're there. So my question is. Now it's a loaded question, so I feel this is okay. Would you prefer a gaming environment? Let's say the game lasts for 2 years, like it does now.
Okay.
Right? Would you want one of the earliest books to be the most powerful book and dominant for a year and a half? Or would you like each codex, now there's no other option, each codex, one after, to be more powerful than the last?
I'm going to say the first option.
Okay.
Because it gives the game's developer more time to sort out the overpowered one.
Interesting.
That's my answer.
I think it's a little bit reductive because it kind of removes agency from the players to a degree.
It does, but like so
I know,
effectively
I know.
a +10
I
stat
just
on a
want to make that
sword
point, yeah.
or a +4 stat on a sword.
Assuming where the players don't fix the issue by themselves,
Agreed.
by creating their own metagame to deal with it.
Well, imagine everyone's just of equal skill.
Well, you can still be of equal skill and
But
still
also-
think of the metagame to counter certain builds, right? Because you have a production lag time, like you often talk about, right?
Yeah.
But if it's just a choice between, I'd probably go for the one where you have the more powerful books released later, because they've got to now break the way into an established metagame.
So you would have more powerful books later.
Yeah. So you take it in turn. You take it in turns.
So they get more powerful as the edition goes on.
Yes.
Okay.
See, I that's like power creeping, and that would just piss me off because I would cynically see it. Oh, that company, they're just doing that to get money out of me.
But equally, it just pissed me off to see the same army played by 85% of players at competitive events for over a year. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically what pisses you off less, and that's entirely subjective.
No, absolutely, which is why I asked the question, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously my end of the field is I don't like that, like, because it's hard to do even a codex review, because like we looked at demons and you're like, okay,
This is useless.
it's hard to go like get excited about
Especially
writing
with something better than it came before it.
That's my point, right?
Yeah, I
like
agree, yeah.
how am I meant to find the excitement? And this is, and I'm asking this question because then I'm hoping that the listeners go, actually, there's a nugget of, so please, gentlemen, please inform me. How do I get the excitement when they release something? And I'm like, oh, rubbish versus the thing that came before it.
Well, this is the thing.
Do I like power creep? I think I do.
Well, I think Warhammer isn't just about the game. Particularly Games Workshop, and they've said for many years they're not a gaming company; they're a models company. So when they're releasing a new codex,
despite having game in their name,
when they're releasing a new codex, it's not just about these rules are really better than everything that's come before it. It's about there's these sweet new models that you can play with, and here are the rules for it. So it's not just about the excitement.
I mean, the perfect environment is obviously number 3, right? Where
what's number 3?
Well, they release a book with a fairly healthy idea of what the meta game is, and it has some unique or interesting aspects.
Yeah.
That would be the actual thing that we would all prefer. But I didn't give you that as an option.
Bastard.
You damned bastard. What's next?
And what is next? Big FAQ number 2.
Oh no!
Here comes the rant.
I'm just going to move on. Go for it.
So they changed some stratagem costs. Order of Champions, and I think Vex went up to 4 at this point.
Prepared positions.
It did.
Prepared positions came out,
And that was it.
Hashtag for the first turn problem.
Solved it actually. Solved the first turn problem.
They changed. I think they changed. Yeah, they changed the reserves rule again. They
They
did some changes to CP farming at this point. I think.
Yeah, they did. You can only get one back per battle round.
One back per battle round. And then they also fucked things that fly.
Apart from they could get prepared positions.
Apart from that.
Apart from that.
Apart from flyers could get prepared positions. Yeah.
This is going to give it 4 because they just butchered the fly keyword.
They just butchered the game with this. It made
Combat, no.
Hey,
combat. Yeah,
Don't
combat.
do combat.
No.
Naughty combat.
Flying. No.
Don't do combat.
They nerfed everything because of Smash Captains. Like everything.
They just nerfed it badly.
Yeah, they nerfed the entire game because of not the entire game, but they nerfed all flying combat because of Smash Captains.
And I still want a GT.
There's a fly on the wall.
You are?
I'm having that.
There's a fly on the wall. Hand me my mallet.
And then attach a grenade to it.
Let me hand me my mallet gun.
Yeah, I give this a flat 1, obviously.
You could tell because of a big desk slam.
Yeah, I don't even. I can't even be asked to talk.
desk slam.
Yeah, this one just fucking. I can't be asked.
Okay, then we had Then we had October.
10.
Can everyone remember October?
Oh no, we'll give it a 9 because it wasn't released in October. It was released in November.
Yeah, November.
9.5.
November.
November.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant name.
Orcs was a brilliant release.
Yeah, fantastic. My favorite.
I liked Orcs.
It's my favorite book.
Again,
Agreed.
It made me start an Orc army because I've always wanted to do an Orc army.
There are so many
What was
good
really
units,
interesting about the Orc book, and again, this is where, because sometimes we people point against Workshop and they go, those guys are dicks, they're doing this on purpose. And the Orc book is where you can point them and go, no, they're shit at their job. Like, in a nice way, yeah? Because they're like
How
that.
can you say that in a nice way?
Because it means that they're not evil, they're just, like, inept.
Okay, good.
That's
yes.
nice.
Yeah, I guess.
That's nice. Like, it's not intentional. Like, and basically what they've done is they've gone, Orc book. You're like, cool. They're like, look at all these new Speed Freak things. And you're like, sweet. And then they go, release the book. And they go, they suck. You're like, oh.
Well, you've still got like 20 or up to 20 Orc units that are viable competitively.
No. Yeah, no, the Orc book's great. I love it. 10. Yeah. Like, love it. Like,
It's just the new releases aren't very good.
That's my point.
The Death Kit
Like,
War Track's alright.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't give much of a hand to all the other stuff, like killer cans. Got like fuck all.
I just want
and
to
they're
run
really
27
cool.
with Scorchers.
Yeah, they're really cool. And
Yeah.
then they got nothing.
Yeah,
Like
the thing-
they even said no chapter tactics for you, no nothing.
what about the most? So Orc book was, I think, 5 months after Imperial Knights.
So Orc Book was November.
Yeah.
And Imperial Knights was. Sorry, I'm going to touch your phone. I
Okay,
hope you haven't.
touch away.
Imperial Knights was June.
Okay. So
Yes, you're correct. It was 5 months.
okay, and so Imperial Knights. 10 for you, Tom. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it affected it massively. Thank you, Doodade, come in. What ever since the game's release has been shit for Orcs, like so woefully ineptly shit that we just never spoke about. That we complained about it loads. We wanted
remember.
justice for it.
Jane?
I don't know.
Okay.
What?
It's a fucking stomper.
Oh, the Stomper.
Everyone in the chat was getting it. Pokey John, Doodade, they're like, they released Imperial Knights. They're like, look, big models. We want them in the game. These are good.
They changed their rules a little bit. And they can have a chapter tactic, right? They can have a culture. You can give it a 6-up invulnerable save, man.
The Stomper made me laugh a lot. That was good because Stomper is. Tom, you got thoughts on
I
Stomper?
can't comment on that one.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
there we go. That means that someone's taking Stompers to the ETC. There
Or
we
not
go.
taking Stompers to the ETC.
There we go.
Oh
Just gonna
wow!
drift off the side of the camera for the rest of it.
Oh god, Tom's leaving. Apparently, Stompers are competitive enough to be used in the ETC. Everyone.
Yeah.
However, I think they suck.
Right.
Okay. To be proven wrong by Team USA when they run the Stompers.
Yeah, or Team Wales with a hay
But what do you
Wales.
think, Nick? What's your thoughts?
What, the Orc book?
No, the Stompers, the Stomper issue.
Stomper, the Stomper
Stomper
issue.
problem.
The Stomper
My stance on the Stomper problem is that Stompers are overcosted and
Underrepresented.
undercosted,
They are
underrepresented, and they have rights,
Yeah, feelings.
feelings, and they need to be treated better.
And they want to stomp.
Yeah,
They have more guns than they have feet.
they have a belly and feet. They need legs to do some stomping.
They're
they can actually get some
they're
leverage.
gumpers.
Yeah, they're just
The
they're
Goombas.
no,
Petition
they're,
to rename them
They're-
gumpers.
they're shufflers. They just shuffle along.
So what movement are they? Are they even movement 12? I think they're...
I don't know, like 10.
Tom, what movement are they?
I don't really move mine very much. It just shoots. 12?
The Morconaut's also bad, but we'll ignore that. Because what's the comparison, really, to a
What
Gorkanaut?
I want a Stomper to be able to do
Morkanaut.
is to have a Morkanaut inside of its belly. I want a Stomper
Like
to have a
Russian
Morkanaut
dolls.
inside of its belly.
Yes! That's an amazing rule!
And then a Dreadnought, and then a Killer Can.
And then inside the killer can, you just got
One Gretchen.
a Gretchen.
An armoured Gretchen. Yeah, all right.
A smash captain, if you will.
I think we've actually just fixed not only 40k, but all of gaming
That's
in
how you
that
fix it.
single idea.
Yeah.
All right, I'll take that. Orc book 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good.
We all love the book.
Yeah, it's great.
So After Orcs was chapter approved, 2018 edition.
Great
9.
book. 9.
Yeah, really good.
Yes. Mainly, they finally made a game.
They made some good missions.
Yes, they made a game.
And this was where they put in the, what was it called? Acceptable losses. So you don't automatically lose if
you're wiped out.
Wiped out.
Which-
Specifically for these missions. Which is
Which
great.
I love that change.
Yeah.
Tom, what did you think about that change?
It triggered me real bad because that's how I was winning all my games. But it's made it more fun, to be fair.
All right, that's good. Made it more fun.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed most of these missions. Like, I've got a few issues with some of them, like supplies from above. I don't like the random aspect of we roll off to see who moves
That's
it.
the movie objective. It wisps away in the
Yeah,
breeze.
I don't mind it. I don't mind the objective moves. I just don't like the fact that there is potential for one player to move all 4 in a single turn, and there's even potential for one player to move all 4 every single turn.
But not moving very far, though.
They're not moving very
That's
far.
very unlikely.
Dude, they
that's
says
very
Games Workshop's version of ITC mission pack. Toon King Tristan says made me want to play again. Still haven't, but made him want to, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I like this a lot. I was like, yay.
What's your favourite one?
I like the one with no invuln saves in the middle.
The narrow the search.
Yeah, because fuck
That's probably
Eldar.
That's probably my least favourite one because it encourages more of a just fight in the centre kind
I mean,
of thing.
a lot of them did that, though. Didn't they?
However, as like a meta balancer,
Yeah, I guess.
that's why I like it, because like if you have an army that relies so heavily on your invulnerable saves, that one actually like clears that, which I love. Yeah, that's great.
I think my favourite is Beachhead because it's kind of like Border War, which is one of my favourite AOS missions.
It's a great mission.
And also,
I wish they put fixed objectives though.
yeah,
Sad.
Face.
maybe they'll do that in chapter approved
2020.
2019. No, yeah.
Then we had Vigilus, right?
No.
Yeah, then yeah, we did, yeah.
We can do both Vigilus books in one go if you want.
Yeah, but they did Vigilus.
Vigilus. Then there's Gene Silicoats after that.
I remember it was Chaos Space Marines, and there was another Vigilus.
So Vigilus was fine.
So Formations came back.
Formations came back.
I really didn't like Vigilus just because of what it does to the game. It's just more books.
Yeah.
That's all.
Agreed.
But
Agreed.
Although really you only need one book between you and your mates and you just tell your mates the particular page that they want.
you give them a photographic memory.
Yeah, give them a screenshot.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
Again,
But it's
you got
another
your
thing.
book.
It's
It's another
another
thing
thing,
to have
yeah.
to need.
it's another thing that I have to need, which is why
And
best thing.
it
Can I
also
just say?
makes explaining what your army does that little bit longer as well. You know, I've got this detachment. It has
If
these
you want to
rules.
find
I
out
have
this
this
does,
detachment. It does
this
these
book,
rules.
yeah, hit the
And then it
folder,
has-
enjoy.
And I'm upgrading this.
I
to do
really
this as
like.
well.
I really like. What I like about 40k. The most is Battlescribe.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that, did we? Like when the edition first dropped. How the fuck do I write an army list?
And then you had to jump to the back and then got all the war gear on it as well.
Yeah, it was a nightmare before Battlescribe came along.
I love you, Battlescribe.
I love you too.
I love you
Battlescribe.
too, Battlescribe.
Would you sleep with Battlescribe if it was a person?
Yes. I mean, even if it was not the gender / race that I was into, I like.
You know all about those.
Like honestly, I think like as a 40k player, any 40k player, like if Battlescribe was drunk on a night out and it was like, I want to touch you, I think we all owe Battlescribe a free one.
Yeah, just one.
Just one, but we all owe him one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed?
You a beer whenever we find them.
Yeah. Battlescribe, we owe you a beer. Who makes Battlescribe? We need
So
to.
it's all by independent dudes who put up like.
Yeah, but who were the independent dudes?
I don't know.
And they're like, I think they're like anonymous.
They're the same guys that do Wikipedia.
They're fucking heroes. Like, find them. We need to find them. That should be
They need a Warhammer Heroes thing.
more than anyone.
Yeah,
In the whole of it, it's their biggest game system. 40k is Games Workshop's biggest game system. It makes them the most money. They literally doubled their fucking stock prices because they released a 40k 8th edition. They didn't release an army builder. Had it not been for Battlescribe, they maybe would have lost tens of millions of pounds.
I don't think there would be a Games Workshop right
I
now.
wouldn't play 40k if there wasn't a Battlescribe.
Agree.
What, a pen and paper?
There wouldn't
Fuck
be a
off.
40k.
I don't think there would.
They'd be out of business.
I think they need to take selfies with their newfound Warhammer Heroes Award.
Huh?
Lots of selfies.
Yeah.
The only Warhammer Heroes is Battlescribe. Changed my mind. If anyone's got a counterpoint, Twitch chat. If you've got
In
a
fact,
counterpoint.
what we should do is we should get one of those little bronze plaques, put Battlescribe on it, and then we should go to Bugman's Bar where they have that board where they have all the plaques.
Just super glue it on.
Bang it on there. Do it.
If anyone wants to vandalise Bugman's Bar,
we
do not condone
should
any such
we
action.
should we get a trophy made?
I think we should get a trophy made.
Right, the Honest Wargamer Warhammer Heroes
Yeah.
this year has been awarded to the makers and controllers of Battlescribe. Congratulations.
Well done, guys. Well done, dudes.
Well done. Yeah, you guys are like Games Workshop owes you tens of millions of pounds, at least.
Give him the money.
Yeah, give them all the money. Witch King says just this year. They can have it for the past 2 years. In fact,
Yeah. 2 years running.
2 years running. Well done. Big Goldfish says, Nikos, get me a plaque. I'll put it in Bugman's. I think because we've announced that we're going to do it, we're officially not going to do
We
it.
are not going to vandalise the bar.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it.
Right, okay, well done. Oh, no, yeah, we were inducting them into the Honest Wargamer Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Well done.
Well
They've
done.
just got that award as well.
Yeah.
All right,
Are
so
we
it's-
going to get our own plaque, by the way?
Yeah.
So we don't have to go into Bugman's and just glue the thing on.
Red War Rob has just made a really good point actually in the chat. Games Workshop do have combat roster.
Oh, yes.
yeah,
We
shit.
forgot
Build
about
your
the
200 power level admech
Again, that
armies.
shows you inept versus evil.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't actually make battle roster. Someone else made it for
They
them.
contracted it.
Who would they, why does it exist?
I don't know.
Maybe they play open play during
He was
their lunch
like,
breaks.
"Oh, I really can't add up to 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a website and turn it into an app. That's way more."
They did announce that they were making a 40k app though.
Did they?
2 years ago. No, they did it at that Adepticon where they banned Hive Tyrants.
That's March 2018.
That's when they announced they were making a 40k app.
In development. Maybe it's being released with 9th edition this summer.
Maybe they just realised how many units 40k has and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so excited.
What for?
9th edition, man.
Yeah, for the new Craftworld Eldar book.
Same.
Yeah, same. Then Gene Stealer Cult book.
Genes of the Cults, yeah. They changed quite a bit
That's
from the
going to
index,
give me
didn't
a
they?
3 or 2.
You can give it a 3 or a 2.
That's another one I was really excited for, but ruined.
So explain to me why low for you on this
It's
one.
unbelievably one-dimensional. I win games one way and that's it.
But are you not vying? Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I remember the conversation from earlier. So it's because of their single focus
Yeah,
of
they
way
have
to
one
win.
win condition.
Yeah,
If they drop down, they charge you. If they drop down, they charge you. If they drop down, they charge you. And then if you're dead, they win. If you're not, they lose.
sad face. Nick, what did you think of it as a book?
I wasn't particularly interested in it.
Yeah.
The model range is really awesome, but what put me off is you need a fuck load of them.
I have a fuckload, but I'm still not interested.
Yeah, you need a fuck ton of models to play the list. It seemed quite complicated.
Great new model releases.
Oh yeah,
Sexy at AF.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones from like 2017 are still cool.
yeah. I think the motorbikes were my favourite
Jackals.
release. Yeah,
Cowboy was mine. Not actually a
Cowboy.
cowboy
The
until Tom Wallace made him into a cowboy. So now
Yeah.
the cowboy, the colour morph. Great model release. I got to say, one of the most confusing ways ever to deploy. Yeah, if you needed a small degree to understand, Death Watch versus Gene Stealer Colts game would be hilarious. That is FYI if you're a new player listening to the show, and why you would be listening to it at this point, I have no idea.
Yep.
I would say that if anyone got some friends who want to get to 40k, make them both buy one by a Death Watch army and one by a Gene Stealer Cult army, and watch them both have panic attacks as they try to play. Wait, I put blips down. I choose bolters.
That's not going to go well.
are you using the beta bolter rule or the special ammunition?
Yeah, using the beta bolt rule. Yeah, some veteran comes in and says it, and they're both like, ah!
That sounds like a gasp that you get from something else. But,
From hanging out with Battlescribe.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
As they're touching you.
And then
Carl,
the
mate, yeah,
last-
Death Watch versus G Stealer Cult equals 3D chess in zero gravity. Fun.
Last one, then.
Yeah, go for it.
So, well, then we had the Chaos Space Marine Updated book where they fucked up the obliterator points.
And the, not Tide of Traitors, the other one. It was a stratagem they fucked up. Can't remember what it was. Ah, whatever.
Can't remember.
Fuck it, something.
And then we had the Chaos Vigilus book.
It's still the same as, like, 3, right?
Um,
It's just more stratagems and more...
I'll give it a 7
Go on then, Nick.
because I really liked using Renegade Chaos Space Marines because you could run and charge.
Right.
They gave you more options for Renegade Marines in this book. The Red Corsairs are a popular one because you get more command points. You still get the run and charge, and you get the more command points buff as well. And then they get like a Tide of Traitor stratagem for Chaos Space Marines, which I've never used. I don't think it's that great because you maximise your benefit from it from having a big blob of 20 Marines, which isn't amazing.
And all the Black Legion goodies. And we had Abaddon released.
We had, the Abaddon model.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That was fucking radical.
Yeah, that was nice.
But I'm not too stressed about Abaddon because he is a massive failadon.
Yeah.
But I liked the Havoc release. They were sexy.
He's a trier.
He is a
Doesn't give
trier.
up.
No,
He's
I respect
persistent.
that. No, I respect that.
Doesn't give
No,
up.
you're right. That's a good point. Yeah,
Like,
he
"Do you
does
wanna go
try
out with
really
me?"
hard.
No. Do you want to go out with me? No.
Huh?
Do you want to go out with me? No.
14 times. He slid into the Imperium's DMs more than any other.
He's like one of those incels that slides at the girl's DMs and just says something really creepy and instantly destroys his own. He instantly messes it up.
That's my dating strategy.
Well, yours works.
Not as much as I would want. So that gets us up to date, right?
Yeah.
big FAQ.
Then we've got the cherry on top.
The FAQ where they fixed the
Big
fly.
FAQ 3.
10 out of 10.
Because they didn't touch anything they didn't need to.
Yeah, hands off.
Yeah.
Hands off
Well,
was the best
yeah.
policy.
Well, they got their hands on the flyers, which was a good thing.
That was good.
That was good.
No move blocking.
Well,
That
not,
was
not
a-
as much. It's
not
not,
as
it's
much
not as
as you like
abusive.
it.
It's
It's
not
still
as
the width of
abusive.
your base.
But most importantly, it showed a clear, the most recent chapter approved and the most recent FAQ showed a clear design philosophy of looking at problems inside of the game that made the game that I stipulate as making it better, which is more interactive and more. Well, I suppose fun's so subjective. I think more interactive is the key. Yeah,
Interactivity is fun.
I think so. But that's
Which is
subjective.
why no one plays Tau.
But I think that the big FAQ and also chapter approved, it was a double whammy of two successful things in a row. I would say that's my thoughts. What do you two think?
What, it was a good FAQ?
Yes.
Yeah, it was really good. And yeah, they had the FAQ's baby brother follow him along,
The
didn't
£15
they?
chapter approved.
They had the.
So
they
they had
had
FAQ, and then they had a small FAQ.
the
that came
FAQ.
after.
Their
Oh,
FAQ.
yeah, the FAQ.
Yeah. That was good, right?
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No new beta rules either.
But my favourite part of the FAQ was they clarified the beta bottable
They did.
to a proper rule, which will never ever change now that it's a proper rule.
Yeah. Near 2 years now officially. What do you guys think of it like as a process? I've had a difficult journey with it. I won't lie, and I think that's been obvious.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of things, a lot of boogeymen along the way that sometimes have taken a while to sort out. I would particularly say the Castellan or Knights with a 3 vulnerable save has been a big boogeyman that they took a long time to sort out.
Yes.
Which I think you said earlier made everyone have to deal with that, which was a bad thing for the game. Which I think they've sorted out to an extent now, because you can max 4+ vulnerable save. You don't have to. They're not as good, so you don't necessarily need to bring all the big guns to definitely deal with it and 3 vulnerable save. I've enjoyed the journey. I've not had a.
I think the journey's been funny.
Yeah.
I've definitely felt frustrated about the journey because, it's like some of the decisions have been wildly inconsistent, and again, like the hype of the game is something like I you've got nothing more in me than someone who wants to throw my head into the game and play. That's all you've got from me. But every time I run up against something that's like outrageous, and again, they do sell the concept that you can pick up any army and play a game, and I would say that that's categorically not true. I don't know what you two would say.
It depends on the game, I guess.
Oh, sorry, 40k out of their chapter approved box. Let's just say that, not talk about ITC. And I would say that categorically that isn't true in some cases. In order to go to a tournament and play, I would say.
In a tournament, right.
But I would also say that even in the sandbox environment of playing with your local mates, it can be quite hard to have a sustainable game until the new chapter approved, which I'm very, very keen on. I think that the game was in a tough spot. I'm more excited about 40k than I ever have been because of the most recent missions from chapter approved. I've touched my toe into ITC and 40k, and I don't really give a fuck about it. Truth be told, it seems weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
I'm
not gonna lie.
Does that make sense?
I don't think it's as good as having proper missions to play, because people talk about the ITC missions, and as far as I'm concerned, there's not ITC missions. There's ITC games with a bonus point available for a particular thing during the game.
To me, ITC games get boring after 5 or 6 games because it's the same game every set.
Yeah, that's the point I'm
time.
saying.
Yeah.
You're playing just an ITC game of 40k, and then the only thing different between each round is the bonus point, which you can get. So there's no the thing I love about AOS is the missions, and then why the new chapter approved missions were so good is because they were more of a step towards AOS style missions. And I like the variety as well. Like they're not all score at the end of the turn. Some at the end of the round, some at the start of the round. They're a bit of a mix, which I really liked.
Yeah, so I actually... I entered 8th edition 40k really excited to play it, and then I felt like I got like hammer punched to the heart. Like, I'm an emotive guy and I like playing like
Harlequins.
Yeah. Well, just a bunch of stuff. I wanted to play Admech. Fuck off. I want to play Custodes. You can just take bikes. I quite like Knights. They're dumb. I'll play like it just felt like that's how it felt for me in my journey.
It felt like you were too pigeonholed into what you had to take.
Very definitely. Like I feel like there is. I don't mean this. I think you can build very clever lists in 40k if we're talking about the Games Workshop missions, and I think that's also true in ITC. But we're gonna maybe not ever talk about that again. But what I mean is I think you can build really clever. You can build clever lists inside 40k, but they're not clever. They're clever in what they do. They're not clever in you can be clever. You can be tactically accurate. You can make the right decisions. You can be a good decision maker, but you can't be...
So you're saying more of a skill is based in the list building rather than it is in the actual gameplay?
No. I think you still need skill in the gameplay. I would never want to take
but
away...
But if that skill is about executing your list rather than
That's what I
being
mean.
Flexible.
I think it's more activating the execution in 40k. And I keep looking... And me and Nick had a game that was really, really tough for me, where I just fucking I didn't table flip, but I just had a shitty time because I was like, I just can't do anything in this game. And it's because...
I was a massive dick, wasn't I?
I was a massive dick. But it's because really, like you said, Tom, it's understanding that 40k is about writing your list and then activating it, which isn't what... The term stratagem is not that.
No, it's the opposite.
Like,
it's like you might as well write it on your list because it's like when you're writing a list in 40k, you think, okay, which stratagems are going to use? Okay, I'm going to use this one once. I might need this one twice. Maybe one for a CP reroll. That's how many CP I need to get, so I'll build my list towards that. So with stratagem, you might as well just write it on your army list, right?
I really do think so. Like, which is which is fine, but it feel I don't know. It's a bit like those old PlayStation games or like old console games where you weren't allowed to go off into the grass. Like the grass was rock hard, and you could only walk along the path.
Yeah.
Do you remember those games? That's kind of how I feel 40k is at application.
Yeah.
But you can do some cool list writing.
Yeah, certainly.
But that's my general review of it. And you got to do a fair review of the whole edition, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But what do you think, Tom?
I don't think I necessarily disagree with any of that. I'm just enjoying 40k at the minute as it is.
Which is fine.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. I do feel like the rule set is very, very simplistic. It's only like 4 pages of core rules at the end of the day, which means that you can't be quite as flexible as maybe you'd like to be. In previous editions where you had things like focus fire and you had things like the wound allocation to units where you have to hit a unit based on the closest model and therefore you had to be very precise with where you place individual models. It was, and therefore you could just outplay your way out of certain situations. I don't know. It feels like if you had more in the core rulebook, you could do more with your codex. Does that make sense? I think the codices, by and large, have been some of the best I've seen for an edition. But it just feels like it's very hard for you to use a lot of those based on the core rule set.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I suppose I haven't really gone that top down, so that might be a really good point. Again, I feel like I'm stuck on the stratagem part of it,
no, it's
and
fine.
then you've gone even above that.
Well, it's a different perspective.
You guys need to talk into the mics, by the way. Someone's having an issue.
Really? I'm right next to it. I don't know. Do I just give it a lick?
Yeah. Rob, why do you think that it's this way? Is it the stratagems? Is it killing us? So, Nick, we've talked about yours. Your review?
My review of the edition as a whole.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed picking up big I've focused mainly on my Chaos Marines and like some demons in there as well. I've dabbled with some Imperium and Knights and Necrons. I've largely enjoyed this edition loads. In terms of stratagems, when you pick up a book, there's always a few that you use and a lot of shit that you just ignore. Then when I'm writing a list, I do that.
you plan out what you're going to do.
Because I make PDFs. I crop out the stratagems that I will use, so I boil it down that way. I wish more units had more special rules that were just specific to them
on their data sheet,
rather than coming from a character or coming from a stratagem. That's what I'd like to see more in the future.
I think I'd like to see that. I think it feels like it adds flavour. Like doing a review of like a game like Warhammer is so like I'm just thinking about it now, like as we're doing this show, and if anyone's stuck with us to the end, we love you loads, thank you. Love you guys. Like, but it's actually really hard to condensely and accurately understand an edition because you can't help not compare it to like 7th edition or something like Age of Sigmar, right? Like, and you have to be quite deeply involved to get to the place where you understand the game. But I think that's right. I think it's been a nice conversation to get to the point where we think it's stratagems that you enact. It's a list you enact, not a game that you play.
Just a thought that's popped into my head. One of the things that I've really loved, more so recently, the latter half of this edition, is combat. Because obviously stratagems are stuff you do, and a lot of armies have predominantly been gun lines and shooting. But what I've really, really enjoyed lately is using combat and movement, which isn't necessarily related to using stratagems or wombo combos, something like that, but like the charge, how you can manipulate your unit to get in range of your own buffs and pull in other units into combat to stop them shooting, or wrapping up units to stop you being shot. I've really enjoyed the combat aspect of 40k recently because that's a lot, very much to do with your micromanagement of your unit and individual models in that unit.
It's a fair point. I still think
I
still think even in the gun lines, as much as we give Tower a hard time, you still have to like do some pretty solid micromanagement.
Yeah.
Like in your maneuverings.
It's mainly a deployment thing, though, isn't it? Again.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Tom. Like the game is on such a knife edge because of the output. In my opinion, the output in 40k is arguably too high, like too much dice.
And that brings us into the Death Star argument.
It does. No, which is
we'll have another time.
We'll have another time, but I do agree with it. I just think you would just lower the output as opposed to create something that can't be killed. And Oct in the chat has just asked, do you think the game would be interesting if the guns had shorter range? I think so. I think like
one of my predictions is that they might bring in more negative modifiers to shooting. So like like Kill Team, they've done it. So if you move, I think it's more heavy weapons. So with Kill Team, mainly it's if they're obscured, it's -1.
Yeah.
If you're over half range, it's -1 to hit. So that would, if that was something like that was brought into 40k, that would reduce output because less of your guns would be hitting. So that's something that they could do in 9th edition.
Why would we like? Well, why would you want there to be less output from shooting? I'll give you an example. Like if I'm like a guard player and I hear that idea. So you're basically saying that my lascan shots are now like going from hitting on 4s, hitting on 6s. Why? What's your argument for wanting that to occur?
Well, based on what you guys are saying, you guys are saying there's too much damage output. There's overloading damage.
Well, I think there's too much output damage at range. Like 48 inches is madness.
So here's my thing with that: if you make a blanket change to all shooting, whereby you're massively decreasing the value that it has, you're now essentially pushing armies that can do nothing but shooting straight out of the game.
Which is a good
and the question is,
if that's talking about Tau, then yes, I'm okay with it.
This is fine.
No, you make it, and you make a good point, Tom. Right, like because what we're doing there is we're changing the ecosystem, but then in your you're now going, oh, you'll take Tau out of the ecosystem.
What I'm suggesting is there's a way that you could leave Tau and Guard in the ecosystem and still make them relatively useful, but you give armies that are potentially more melee based or worried about getting blown off the board immediately a way of avoiding that, and that's just more dense terrain. Which is why the ITC does the ground floor of ruins as line of sight.
Yeah, it's another great conversation that we've had several times over the course of the year, right? Like about terrain and its impact inside the game. But again, as you said, Tom, inside the core rules, not stipulated particularly well.
No.
And also, it almost seems designed without terrain as a thought.
Also, having things like craters and forests both have -2 effects on charging is just another thing that you could just remove or reduce that to -1. That'd make things much more easily.
Yeah, that's a really solid point. Terrain is a really key feature that could change it up. I would say, so one of the really interesting things I heard from Tom from One Weekly, he talks about this thing called projection of power. Have you heard that term before?
No, I haven't.
So I find that's quite key because it goes into a conversation me and Nick once had. So a combat unit would be its movement plus its charge, and then it's effectively doing its fighting.
So it's threat range.
It's just threat range, yeah, projection of power. Like whereas the shooting unit stands and it does its shooting. effectively. I would say that in 40k, the projection of power for shooting is too high, and the projection of power for a lot of combat is too small. Not all,
No,
but
that's
a
fine.
lot.
That's fine. So what you're ending up doing with heavy terrain is you're not necessarily reducing the radius of the diameter of the projection of power or threat range or whatever you want to call it. You're just giving pockets where it doesn't have as much of an effect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a listen. It's really interesting. Like for me, I think my big takeaway is because someone asked, "What do we think we'd like to see?" I'd like the ecosystem to be bigger. I'd like there to be more options. I'd like, and someone might push back and say that there are lots and lots of options. Like maybe I'm just
There
wrong.
might be lots of bad options though.
Huh?
There could be lots of bad options.
I think there is lots of bad options. That's how it feels. I look at something and I think like. Because you can't not compare it to your enemy, right? Like, I feel about the tanks that the English had in the Second World War versus the German tanks. Like, they're just like, we're fucked, like every time. But they didn't have any other option, and that's kind of how I feel. I feel like the Englishman with his tanks. I'm like, well, this is the army I want to play, but those German tanks are really good.
And this is why I put quite a high score on the Knights book, because it feels like there aren't really very many bad options, apart from maybe the Preceptor. That's quite a bad option.
Yeah, agreed. But I put I
know. I understand your point.
Yeah, good. I put a low score on it because I just want
if every book did what Knights did.
No, it's more that because I have to think about Knights when I build any army, and I have to ask myself if they go first, are they just going to blitz what I have off the board? And Knights, often the answer is yes.
But is the alternative of I never have to think about Knights because they're just not useful in any situation? You can't play Knights. You're not allowed to play Knights and it be reasonable.
I don't know. It's like 5 or 6 models versus like entire codexes.
Well, the point I'm making is that when you're saying, oh well, someone's coming to the game and certain factions are just unplayable, right? Is it better for a army to be unplayable or for an army to be something you have to think about every time you build a list? I would personally gravitate. I'd prefer to have an army be something I have to think about every time I build a list, because if every army is like that, that's a fully...
But to take your point to the end scale, if you have to think about it where it makes codexes useless, you would probably agree that that should be scaled back a little bit.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Which is why I'm going for the utopia of codices, where every codex has everything.
That would just be nice, right?
Yeah.
Like with Necrons, like you could go through that entire 3-month period where Nick was just. I mean, Dude Our Days in the chat right now. He's donated hundreds of bits at this point just so Nick can buy himself
which is now illegitimate.
But Nick's like, and we would say to Nick, why are you taking 3 Tesseract Vaults? He's like, because I don't want to have to take 3 Tesseract Vaults. Like and that's it's
like
that feeling.
Ace and his flying hive tyrants.
Yeah, I would say that feeling, Nick's feeling about Tesseract Vaults, is my takeaway from 8th edition 40k.
Fair enough.
That's my takeaway.
Cool.
You guys got any final thoughts?
I think that's a good way to round it off.
Yeah, no.
I don't want to take 3 Tesseract Vaults.
God damn it. I want to take warriors and monoliths. That's what I want to take. Warriors and monoliths. That's my campaign slogan.
And maybe we're being like maybe I'm being super I don't know what the word is that they say, but like being a bit of a precious like princess, because realistically I want to play with the models that I've got. But I did also buy those fucking models.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You can play with them. No one's stopping you.
That's true.
That's true. Not allowed to win games in tournaments.
Stopping you.
I'm allowed. This is the opponent's going to stop me fucking tons of the
Unless you
time.
play someone else who's also just using their toys, and then no one wins.
That's true. But even when I was rocking like badass armies, I did enjoy rocking the orcs.
Yeah.
Like even pre-codex, that was hilarious.
And it was a good army as well.
It was a good army as well. It just was dumb. Like it was because it was ludicrous. Just like look at all of my shit. I especially liked it when it was index orcs, and I could explain people what the
Gretchen did.
did.
Damn it.
Anyway,
Oh dear.
it's been an interesting chat. Thank you very much,
very
guys.
good fun. Yeah.
So what are we going to do about the next edition of 40k? What are you
we'll
going to play in
find
the new
out.
edition of 40k? Apparently,
I'm
according to
gonna
everyone in
play
the chat, it's not coming out, and we're wrong.
It depends when I retire.
We'll see next month, won't we? When it's out.
You think it's going to be out next month?
He's doubling down.
I think it's good. So once the hype from the General Handbook for AOS has died down, I think we'll start to hear some whisperings.
So the new financial
whisperings
year
of the
has
new
just posted,
thingy.
right? So like you have to understand Games Workshop's like, so it's either going to be in this half of the year or next half of the year, because it's all about. So
it's going to be in one of the 2 halves of the year.
So if you notice, they actually posted incredibly good like financials this year. So what I would argue that they're going to do, potentially, the only reason I could see it not being this year is what they'll do is because they've made so much money right now. what they'll do is they'll run at a small loss for the first half of this year, and then what they'll do is they'll spike 9th before the end of the financial close next year. That way, they get a good end of the year.
It looks like it's just been growing.
Yeah, but also if you can tank your own stock prices and buy them. Just saying. if you're literally a monopoly in a market and can control the value of your stock through sales,
Yeah.
that's a financially viable option, FYI.
Really?
Just think about
Shady.
it. Like no, it's not shady. It's just like it's business practice. It's what like you have to like.
This is why the economy collapsed.
We're just going to be sat
Weird
here.
shit like this.
We're just going to be sat here when we post that small loss with all of our computers just ready to go on our shares.
I'm ready. I'm
You're
ready.
ready.
It's been wonderful talking to both
Yeah,
of
and
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
And you too.
You guys got anything final to say?
Fuck Tau.
Tom?
Fuck you.
That's
Thank you for everyone joining us in the chat. You guys have been great. Hype261 says, but to Nicholas pointing at actual kill team shooting rules reduces the projection of power for shooting units, which is, I think, the point that we think that would be good.
Yeah.
Nightscope says, yeah, I was saying too, obscuring half range rules would force you to get closer and move about.
yeah.
And then get charged and die.
Yeah, and then do like if games to follow their terrain amounts per table guidelines at events, it would be a good start. That would also
That would be a great start.
Banging.
It's been wonderful talking to you all. Thank you very much. Join us next
See you
week for
later,
more
guys.
40k. You guys have been brilliant. Thank you to everyone on Patreon and Twitch.
Goodbye.
This has been the Honest Wargamer. Real fucking honest today.
Yeah, real fucking honest.